It's been 5 years since a college player was taken with the #1 overall pick. That could change in a couple of minutes. Andrew Bogut, center, University of Utah, awaits Marvin Williams. He will not have a long wait till his name is announced. Welcome to the draft. To the stage, the commissioner of the NBA, David Stern.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the NBA Draft at the theater at Madison Square Garden in New York City, home to the Knicks and the WNBA's Liberty. To our fans watching on ESPN and in over 200 countries around the globe, to our fans logging on to NBA.com, and especially to those of you, the true NBA fans who are joining us here at the draft, thank you for being here. It will not come as a surprise to you that the first pick in the 2005 NBA Draft will be made by the Milwaukee Bucks, who have 5 minutes to make their selection.
And there will be 5 minutes between selections. Again, to remind you, Milwaukee had a 6% chance of winning the #1 overall pick at draft lottery night. They did. And as you see, there's a lot of stress in that draft room. Kicking back, relaxed. They've had a lot of time to think, assess. They've had both Marvin Williams and Andrew Bogut in, and the pick will be in a couple of minutes. They've had the #1 overall pick before, as mentioned. From Power Memorial High School here in New York to UCLA to the Bucks, Lou Alcindor, 1969, the #1 overall pick. And 8 years later, Kent Benson, the #1 overall selection, 1977 by the Bucks. And then more recently, 1994, big dog Glenn Robinson, who just a few days ago won a championship ring as a member of the San Antonio Spurs. Greg Anthony, Stephen A. Smith, let's look together at this Milwaukee team that went 30-52, 11 games poorer. As you look at the people on the roster right now, one of the key reminders, Terry Porter, their coach last year and the year before, was fired on Wednesday. They do not have a coach as they make this selection.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because without a coach means you don't have a philosophy or a style or a system that you would like to incorporate this young man into, which would help, I think, enhance his growing curve. Because if you're going to have that when you talk about the Milwaukee Bucks, the reality is, even with the selection, if it's Andrew Bogut, I still don't think this is going to be a playoff basketball team, and there's still some doubt as to whether or not Michael Redd will re-sign with the Bucks.
Well, there's really nothing to think about. They won't be a playoff basketball team as far as I'm concerned. They ranked 27th in field goal percentage defense last season. You're looking at this squad right now. You certainly look at the potential for Bogut and say to yourself, he's definitely worthy of being the #1 pick. He will help them, but will he be enough to elevate them to, just playoff status? No, it's going to take some time and it's going to take some additional parts, and they certainly didn't put themselves in a good position to get that job done when you're walking into this draft without a coach, because without a coach, you don't have a system.
Mention that up. The last time that a team took a #1 overall pick in a draft without a head coach would be when the Clippers selected Michael Olowokandi. That was the year when we had the lockouts. Do you find that humorous?
Yes.
Just a tad.
We do. We find it very humorous.
I hope that's not an omen.
It probably is not, but it's just a point of fact. So Milwaukee, with that in mind and not knowing who the coach will be, they do know who their #1 overall pick will be. For the announcements, head up to the stage and the commissioner, David Stern.
With the first pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Andrew Bogut from Australia and the University of Utah.
Andrew Bogut's dad built carburetors. It was on a makeshift hoop in the garage at that shop that he learned how to shoot and first fell in love with basketball. A guy who in his earlier days and smaller days played a little bit of point guard, has a great passing ability, and now tonight Andrew Bogut, as his dad Michael watches, #1 selection in the NBA Draft. in Milwaukee in the draft room as they watched as the announcement was made, the hours they put into this decision. Senator Herb Kohl, who is the owner of the Bucks, not in the draft room. The President of the United States is addressing the nation, and the Senator was dealing with some business in Washington today, but everybody else certainly had a lot of input on the new Milwaukee Buck, Andrew Bogut. Jay Billis.
Well, Andrew Bogut was the perfect pick for this team at this time. I think he's an outstanding player, very productive. He's got a lot of experience at a high level. I realize what these guys are saying, that this will not be a playoff team with Andrew Bogut, but they probably wouldn't be a playoff team with anybody they took. I think this was the right pick. He's going to be a terrific player for a long time.
I definitely think it helps the fact that he's going to Milwaukee. When you look at that situation, you definitely want some size on that front line. You've got Joe Smith. You've got Gadzuric. You don't have much else. You're looking at this situation with T.J. Ford and Michael Redd, wondering what's going to happen with T.J. Ford's health, wondering if Michael Redd will be there in the uniform. You take all of those things into consideration. If you want to start fresh, you want a solid point guard and you want a big center. A center that's rugged, that's got the size to get the job done. I definitely think it's a positive thing.
And, you know, it's not to knock Andrew Bogut. I think he's a fine basketball player. The reality and the question I have is, are the Milwaukee Bucks sincere about winning? Because they've not shown that the last several years. They've not been willing to go out and try and bring in the free agents or keep the free agents that would have given them an opportunity to be successful and win.
Andrew Bogut, the selection. We talked about his dad, his father, standing by with Mark Jones. Mark?
And with Michael Bogut, and how special is this for you as a family, looking back on his basketball career where he was virtually cut from the Australian team about a half dozen years ago to come this far?
It's not explainable, really. How do you explain it? But I guess that's what influenced him to work even harder. And I think that was the cornerstone of his future, basically. We just support him as parents, that's all.
Part of that support was you lining him up with a personal trainer at a very young age. What gave you the idea to do something like that at such a young age?
Well, I met the man about 5-6 months before that, and he come up to me and he says, "Your boy's good, but he's not good enough." And I met him at the stadium again. I said, "Well, how about if you start training him?" And he said, "Well, I haven't got the time." I said, "Well, take your foot out of your mouth, basically, and start doing something about it." And he rang us about 2 days after. And he said, "You're on." And that's when it all started, basically.
All right, Stuart Scott, it all paid off, the hard work, didn't it? Over to you.
You bet.
Absolutely, Jonesy. Andrew Bogut, you just sat down here. You let out this big... And he said, "They need to check my heart for a murmur right now." Andrew, everybody dreams of being the #1 pick. Now it's reality. How does the fantasy compare to what it really feels like?
Like you said, man, just taking that deep breath, and it's surreal to me still. I think I'll wake up tomorrow morning and have a better realization for what's going on, but this is just a dream to me come true.
Now, you played NBA guys when you played in the Olympics last year. What was the one moment, the first moment at the Olympics when it hit you, you know what, I can play with these guys?
Before the game, I knew coming in, I knew I could play with those guys. I knew they were human, and I knew, if I bring my A game, I can play with them. And after the first minute, I was comfortable, and I knew I'd have a great game.
You're from Australia. Your parents are Croatian. Croatia, very, very important to you. Their culture. Why?
Just proud of where my whole family came from. Both sides of my family from Croatia, born in Croatia. I grew up eating the food, grew up listening to the music and speaking the language. So I'm very proud to be Australian. I'm very proud to be Croatian too.
All right, Mike, his favorite player growing up was the late Drazen Petrovic. A couple of years ago, this guy was at Drazen's grave wearing a Tony Kukoc jersey, a Tony Kukoc Milwaukee Bucks jersey.
And now others will live the dream of wearing the Andrew Bogut jersey. Let's bring in, via video conference, General Manager, Milwaukee Bucks, Larry Harris. Larry, was there any wavering over the last 48 hours with this selection?
Well, obviously it came down, to today. We did a lot more backgrounds, a lot more research, and really probably more this morning did we feel like as we got into the middle of the afternoon, we really kind of locked in and knew that Andrew was our guy.
What kept it an open-ended question for the last 24 hours?
Well, I think we still had to look at the two people and decide what was going to be the best fit for our team. And looking down the road, obviously, into free agency, as well as adding which piece we thought would be a good foundation piece for us now and then growing into the future.
What was the decision-making or the difference-making for the decision by you guys?
You know, I guess the biggest decision was we just felt with Andrew that he's a guy that can step in right away. We feel like we can get back into the playoffs next year with all the things that have transpired so far, obviously, with T.J. Ford, the good news there and the encouraging news we've got from him. Obviously, free agency is going to be a big day for us, hopefully starting this Friday, trying to get Michael Redd re-signed. But adding the quality and the competitor in Andrew Bogut, we really feel now we're solid in that center position.
Larry, thank you. Larry Harris, general manager of Milwaukee Bucks. Number 1 selection, Andrew Bogut. You see Atlanta's time is up. The Hawks have made their selection. Number 2 overall. This is an Atlanta team that won but 15 games last year, trying to turn their fortunes around. Back up to David Stern.
With the second pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Marvin Williams from the University of North Carolina.
Roy Williams, his college coach for the 1 year where he didn't start but played 22 minutes at North Carolina there. When the national championship game was tied at 70, it was his tip-in that put Carolina on top for good and on to the national title. You heard from his mom, Andrea, earlier. Takes that ferry in suburban Washington over to Seattle, an hour ride to support her 3 sons. There's her number 1 son, number 2 overall pick. To the Atlanta Hawks, Mark Jones with his college coach, Roy Williams.
Roy, Marvin, number 2 pick. Where do you think and what do you think his selflessness did in this entire process?
Well, I think he's the most unique individual I've ever been around, to be that gifted and yet that caring, that humble, that appreciative of everything. He's just an unbelievable young man who's going to be a big-time pro for a long, long time.
Interesting night for yourself, as you have potentially 4 players going here in the first round. Mixed emotions when you look at what's happening now and then down the road?
No mixed emotions at all. I love these kids. This is their night. It's a great night for them. We'll worry about North Carolina basketball a little bit later, but it's a great night for these kids.
All right, Roy, thanks a lot. Mike, back to you.
It's a heck of a recruiting tool. Jay, tell me about him.
Marvin Williams, the sky is the limit as far as his potential is concerned. He is unbelievably long. He is active. He is athletic. Marvin Williams is the real deal and the complete package. He is an active, bouncy athlete that can really get off his feet, and he is really long. Has a wingspan of about 7'3". He can block shots. He's a terrific offensive rebounder, and he can take the ball to the basket with authority. I think what makes him special is his range as a shooter. He's got an outstanding stroke. He hits about 90% from the free throw line. He's going to be a prototype 3-man in the NBA. He is versatile. He can post up. He needs to refine his post moves a little bit. He's more along the lines of fakes and trying to power over people, but he can improve those post moves over time. He's only 19 years old. He has been extremely well coached to this point. He will be well coached in the future. I think this young man has got it all. He is going to be a great player. We may look back in 5 or 6 years and say that Marvin Williams was the player out of this year's draft. I still agree with Bogut going number 1 right now. But we're going to look back saying this was the great player in the draft.
Dick Vitale, do you agree with that as we bring you in from Florida?
Well, there's no doubt about it. I agree with everything Jay said. I did a number of their games. He's a terrific athlete, great upside, terrific potential. But if you're looking at their roster right now with Josh Smith, Harrington, Childress, they need a guy who can be explosive at the point guard slot, and I think they will come to regret that they didn't take Chris Paul. But I do love Marvin Williams, but I think for that situation, when you win 13 games, my friends, I'll tell you one thing, Mike Woodson should run right into Billy Knight and say, you know what? Potential. I want the same years of the contract as Mr. Williams so I can be here and enjoy him 3-4 years from now.
There is some duplication on that Atlanta roster that lost 15 more games than last year, but Marvin Williams is a great part standing by with Stuart Scott. Stu?
Thanks a lot, Mike. Marvin, you've said before, classy is the way you carry yourself. How did you start believing that?
That's just how my parents raised me. You know, going to Carolina, Coach Smith has always taught his players to be that way. Coach Williams taught us to do the same thing, so that's definitely why I carry myself that way.
Now, you've always been called the selfless player. You never started in college. You've always said, yo, put that guy in. What if Atlanta asked you, we need 22 points and 10 rebounds a game from you right now? How do you change that?
I would just work as hard as I could. You know, try to learn as much as I can about the program, lift weights, and try to better my game so I can try to produce that.
All right, real quickly, what's the first thing you're going to buy your mom?
I don't know yet. Whatever she wants.
Whatever she wants, Mike. There's no better answer than that.
I enjoyed what he said about his mom and going to work so often that, you know what, if mom wants to stay home for a day or a month, I want to be able to tell her she can do that. Marvin certainly will be able to financially. Atlanta hasn't drafted an all-star, a future all-star, in 21 years. They hope that changes. The number 3 spot did belong to Portland. Obviously, there was a trade with Utah and Portland earlier. We will have the number 3 selection belonging to the Utah Jazz, and back up to the commissioner.
With the 3rd pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Utah Jazz select Deron Williams from the University of Illinois.
A little drama there as you look at Deron Williams' young daughter sitting there. This moment of happiness for Deron Williams, the number 3 pick out of Illinois. Back-to-back Williams taken. We now have 10 players named Williams in the NBA, more than any other. But this one made a name for himself and part of a spectacular season in Champaign-Urbana.
Well, how about David Stern? A little change of direction, change of pace there. Deron Williams is an outstanding player. He's got a great feel. I think he's a Jason Kidd type player with a jump shot. He is big and strong. He can get out and defend, and he's got an unbelievable feel for the game. I really like the way he changes pace. He can play fast. He can play in the half court. An outstanding passer. The question with him is, does he have the blow-by ability to get into the lane? I don't question that. I think he does. He's got a wingspan of a 6'6" guy. Deron Williams is going to play a long time in this league, and he's going to play at a really high level. I agree 100% with this pick.
Well, for me, I think it's more of a system. I think he fits what Utah wants to do in terms of how they're going to run their offense. They will get out in transition from time to time, but I think they want to be able to execute in the half-court set. He gives them an opportunity to do that. And I think also his versatility, the ability to play 2 positions, both offensively and defensively, I think will coexist very well with Andre Kirilenko.
Well, my response is we'll see. They were 21st in the league, the Utah Jazz, in field goal percentage defense. They were 26th in scoring. This guy supposedly can play defense, and on top of it all, you know what, he can assist because he led the Big Ten in assists 3 different years. We'll see what he's made of.
Standing by now with Stuart Scott. Stu?
Thanks a lot, Mike. Darren, we just saw Amy and your daughter, Danae. Your girlfriend, Amy, says that you're always focused on something. What are you always focused on?
Just whatever I'm doing at the time. I try to be as focused as I can. Basketball season is basketball. Just try to be focused.
Your daughter, Danae, I understand she beats you up a lot.
She does. She's rough. She gets me sometimes,
You wrestled from the time you were 5 years old to the time you were 7th grade. And even I understand you and your teammates will wrestle sometimes after practice and you always win. How does wrestling help basketball?
I don't know if it does, but it paid off in the locker room. So
he's the highest Illinois player taken ever at number 3. Before that, it was Kendall Gill, who is now a professional boxer, who's 1-0. In a fight, you wrestle Kendall boxers. Who's going to win in a fight?
In a fight? I'd have to say me. I can't say he's going to beat me, but he's training right now, so I got to get into training.
All right, congratulations, Darren.
Sure.
Mike, 7 tattoos on this man, still character, all the time, character.
He's going to have to answer the question, can somebody become the point guard in Utah for a long time after John Stockton? Certainly he's proven at Illinois that he has the makeup to do that. Number 4 overall selection belongs to the New Orleans Hornets. Then Charlotte on the clock after that. We've already seen Bogut, Williams, and Williams go 1, 2, 3. The 05 draft underway. We'll be singing Danny Granger's name. We'll find out soon. Some of those players will be selected. Maybe the next pick. New Orleans, number 4 overall selection.
With the 4th pick in the 2004 NBA Draft, the New Orleans Hornets select Chris Paul from Wake Forest University.
I don't doubt that Byron Scott and the rest of the brain trust in New Orleans are smiling to get Chris Paul, sophomore out of Wake Forest, 2005 first team All-American, the 3rd Demon Deacon taken in the top 5 all-time, the first one since Tim Duncan was taken number 1 overall back in 1997. That one, by the way, worked out pretty well for San Antonio. In that suit featuring black and gold, the Wake Forest colors. Chris Paul, his picture with the commissioner, and let's bring in Dick Vitale, who saw a lot of Chris down in the ACC.
But I'll tell you one thing, Mike. They got themselves a winner. You have to start somewhere, and you look at that Hornets roster. They gave up on Baron Davis, made that trade. This kid's the perfect replacement. Basketball now starts at the point guard slot. He is the ideal guy, but they got to get some building blocks around him. You looked at Darren Williams going to Utah. I agree with Greg Anthony. That was a great player for them because he fit their system. Right now with New Orleans, they're going to have to get people that can fit that system, that can run, transition. Byron Scott is going to love this kid. I mean, we're talking about a kid that can make threes. We're talking about a kid who shot 47% from the three-point line. We're talking about a kid that led the ACC in assist-to-turnover ratio. This is a winner. He will be the mayor of New Orleans. Trust me, he will be the king in New Orleans. A great, great choice.
They need a lot in New Orleans. They lost 23 more games than last year, Dick, so they're going to need personality. They're going to need excitement. They're going to need somebody to turn this team in a better direction. Baron Davis was the last time they took a point guard, 1999. Obviously, Baron has moved on, and Chris Paul, the sophomore, comes from Wake Forest to New Orleans with his 4th overall selection. Such a terrific family story involved. His family is so important, including his brother. He's been with him for a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and he's standing by. His brother is with Mark Jones. Mark?
And with C.J. Paul, and if you're all wondering why he's so tough and why Chris plays with so much grit and guile, it's because of his older brother. Describe and characterize some of the battles that the two of you had playing any kind of game as kids growing up.
All our battles ended with fights, fist fights. I remember Chris used to run and grab a knife because I was so much bigger than him. But it was all out of love, all out of love.
He tells me that you're going to go live with him. What's the idea behind that?
I'm going to be pretty much like his manager, personal assistant, take care of all the day-to-day stuff because Chris is still a young guy. I just graduated from college, so I got a lot of time on my hands.
All right, thanks a lot for joining us. And Stu, I guess Chris ultimately ended up winning some of those battles, huh?
Yeah, he did, but Chris is, he's not a very good NBA analyst, Mark. He just sat down here and saw his brother on TV, said, oh, he's going to be nervous, man. He's going to be stuttering. Your brother was flawless on the interview.
He was all right.
He was all right?
He was all right.
You give him an all right grade.
He was all right.
When you're going to a team that needs so much help, how does that change what is expected of you?
I think it's a challenge. You know, Coach Scott is a great coach, and when I went out to New Orleans to work out, I really enjoyed it. They really have a great staff, and I can't wait to get there and play with those athletic guys.
It's New Orleans, Chris. It's Bourbon Street.
Bourbon Street.
Now, a whole lot of visiting teams used to go in there and get all messed up before they stepped on the court. How do you stay away from potential dangers?
My brother is actually going with me, and he's going to New Orleans with me. He's going to live with me and try to be a mentor to me. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You know, they got the Essence Festival there next week. My parents actually going out to that.
All right, everybody calls you a choir boy. You're president of your sophomore class in high school, junior, senior class, but your mom said you were temperamental as a kid. What does she mean by that?
I think I just always had an edge to me. I hate to lose, no matter what it is. So I've always just had an edge, and you know, if you step on my toes, I'm gonna tell you about it.
All right. So Chris did well in his interview, Mike. His brother CJ did okay, according to Chris.
Exactly.
The CJ be watching out for him down there. Congratulations to the Paul family, guys. Charlotte sitting there at number 5, and they were hoping that Chris Paul would be sitting with them. This is going to hurt for Charlotte. No matter what happens, they're going to love up the next pick. But everything we heard was they wanted Chris Paul really bad.
No, they did, even going so far as to think about the 5 and 13 pick in trade for Chris Paul because he could sell tickets. He's an outstanding player. But they still need a point guard, and they will be looking toward Raymond Felton next. That might be a little high for Felton, but it shows how valuable point guards are right now.
How do you think the point guards have done so far here?
Oh, I think when you look at where Chris Paul is going, I think he's a better fit for New Orleans because simply they don't have as much offensive firepower. You have an all-star in Andre Kirilenko, a very capable scorer with Utah. New Orleans does not possess that. This guy, I think, is the quickest in this draft with the ball from end to end. He's the best at change of direction. And most importantly for me, he's great in traffic. He can take the hit and still finish, and he's very good at finding his teammates.
Well, we'll definitely see what Darren Williams is all about, even though I'm confident he'll get the job done. In the case of New Orleans with Chris Paul, number 1, Chris Paul, I believe, is going to be sensational. And number 2, if you're the New Orleans Hornets, you can pick Winnie the Pooh and there's no way to go but up. You were last in practically every category that mattered. You didn't get the job done. So therefore, they're not going anywhere but up. And that's why it's great that they got Chris Paul.
I would have gone with Tigger. Tigger has more.
There you go. Well, whomever.
I like
number 5 overall selection belonging to Charlotte. This is a team that is brand new in the NBA, has an exciting future. Who will be the next piece?
With the 5th pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Charlotte Bobcats select Raymond Felton from the University of North Carolina.
Well, they did get a point guard who plays in North Carolina, as Felton is taken 5th overall, first-team All-ACC, 2 of the top 5 Tar Heels, 3 of the top 5 out of the ACC. First Carolina point guard taken in the first round since Kenny Smith, 18 years ago. Hug there from Roy Williams. Surprised?
I'm a little bit surprised at how high, but seeing that Charlotte needed a point guard and was really in desperate need of a point guard, it's not a shock. Raymond Felton is ultra quick, ultra fast with the basketball from end to end with the ball in his hands. I think he is the fastest player in this year's draft. He's got a 6'4" wingspan, so he can guard. He puts the best pressure on the basketball of any point guard, in my judgment, in this draft, and he's shown the ability to improve. He went in 1 year from being an absolute non-shooter to being a guy that you could not back off of, and you had to go over the top of high screens because he would shoot the ball and knock it down. Shot about 44-45% from 3 this last season. A vast improvement at that level. I think Raymond Felton is going to be a really good player in this league. The question mark, though, could you have gotten him later in this draft? Would you be better off going with somebody else who had a little more value at this pick? But it just shows, Mike, that how important the point guard slot is in this year's draft and how important it was to Charlotte.
As far as I'm concerned, when I think about Raymond Felton, I think about one thing. The man just won a national championship. Certainly number 5. Some people can speculate it may have been a bit too high. The kid is a national champion and a point guard of a national champion. I believe in him. I believe
time that we've seen a team take in its first 2 seasons a player from the reigning national champs. Emeka Okafor from UConn was their pick last year. With their college teammates taken in the lottery in the same year. There it is for the 3rd consecutive year. Carolina, the reigning champs, Connecticut, Kansas before that, the runner-up in that 2003 season. The year before that, Duke. A couple of years before that, Kenyon Martin and DeMar Johnson with Cincinnati and Duke. So it's happened a lot recently, happens again here, and Stu is with Raymond Felton.
Played his high school ball in South Carolina, college ball in North Carolina, staying right in the state to play NBA basketball. It's good to stay in the state, but how much more pressure does that put on you to have to play in front of people who expect so much?
I mean, there's no pressure. I'm just going to come out and just play basketball. I know how to play. You know, I've been playing this game all my life, and I love it. So I'm going to come out and I'm going to contribute to the way I can.
What do you think when you hear commentators like Jay over there say something like, I think 5 is too high for Raymond Felton?
That's his opinion. You know, I'm just going to come out, I'm going to work hard. I'm blessed. I'm living a dream right now, so that's just his opinion. So I'm just going to come out, I'm going to work hard and try to prove him wrong.
When Sean May said to you sometime last year, and a team full of stars, when he said, you're our best player, you've got to lead us, how does that hit you?
I mean, it shows me that, you know, he believed in me. You know, my teammates believed in me all year, and they just put the ball in my hand and let me lead in the promised land.
All right, Raymond, congratulations. Mike, his dad used to send him outside and dribble in the dirt when he was growing up. Nice feel for the rock.
Yep. From out of the dark in the town of 1500, out of South Carolina, the top high school scorer all time in South Carolina, still with the Carolina roots there, the 5th overall selection in this draft. Portland is on the clock. They made the trade with Utah, so the Trailblazers will make their first selection when we continue. They took a point guard out of high school last year. So they take a high schooler this year, the 6th overall pick. We've had point guards go 3, 4, and 5 in the 05 draft.
All the little kids looking at this draft tonight, you could be here. A lot of hard work and dedication. Trust me, I'm from a small town, and I just work hard, and I believe. Keep God first.
The Charlotte Bobcats select Raymond Felton from the University of North Carolina.
Love you, son. Congratulations. Congratulations. Pretty good. These guys want to take this.
6'4" wingspan, new team, new building.
Yes, sir.
Nice people. Congratulations.
That is big news for Charlotte. They do enter a new building this year, and they're trying to draw more people, frankly, into the building. So Raymond Felton with the local attraction, the familiarity in ACC country, that will not hurt. Portland is picking next, as we told you earlier and a couple of times tonight, a trade. Portland was sitting at the number 3 spot after lottery night. However, Utah and Portland cooking a deal where the 6th and 27th pick in this draft now belongs to Portland. Utah took the 3 and took Darren Williams of Illinois. Don't forget, Portland will get a 1. Utah had 2 1s for next year's draft, 2006. One of them coming from Detroit. That one will be moved. Portland's pick, number 6. Back to the commissioner.
With the 6th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Portland Trailblazers select Martell Webster from Seattle Prep, Seattle, Washington.
Martell Webster, the first high school player selected, 2005 McDonald's High School All-American. It's just the second time in the last 7 years that a high schooler wasn't taken in the top 5. We talk about players and celebrating their moments. His mom disappeared when he was 4 years old. He was really raised by an extended basketball community. And Martell Webster has overcome a lot, committed to Washington, decided to make the move directly to high school, and will stay in that great Northwest area and play for the Portland Trailblazers. Andy Katz, who's covering all the high school players in this draft, can add more on the first high school selection in this draft.
That's right, Mike. Martell Webster worked out for 9 teams, and he actually told me maybe his best workout, not for a shooting reason, but for defensively, was at Portland when he went against Rashad McCants and Nate Robinson. He said he felt very comfortable there, not just for his shooting, but his overall game. So Webster now going to Portland at number 6.
Well, with high school players, immediately, Andy, everyone wants to know, Jay, how can this person assimilate those skills into the NBA?
Well, he's really long, first of all. I mean, he could have shaken hands with David Stern from the green room. He's got 6'11" wingspan at the height of 6'7". This young man has a tremendous talent. He can really shoot the ball. Big-time shooting ability, great range on his shot, and an NBA body. He is a good athlete, not necessarily a great one. He's not in the same class as Gerald Green athletically, but he reminds me a little bit of a young Dale Ellis. He struggles a little bit defensively. He's got to really improve in that area, but he's just 18 years old, and he's got good strength. I think this young man has got a chance, but he has really got to continue to work hard because he doesn't have the athleticism of a Green, but he is an outstanding shooter. That is what is going to set Martell Webster apart, his shooting ability.
One thing I'm concerned about is Portland's leadership. That's the bottom line. This kid is coming out of high school. You've got Darius Miles. He's cussing out his coach. Zach Randolph's got weight problems. You're talking about a leadership issue within that entire organization that's been well publicized. There are major concerns about this organization from top to bottom. Have no problem with the pick. I'm just saying he's a high schooler. They need some leadership on that roster.
And that's a great question. When you're going to bring a guy in of that age, you want to make sure you have a stable roster that's going to allow this guy's talents to really prosper. The other question, though, and Jay made the point about his athleticism, I think he's a phenomenal player. I think I've been told he's probably the best shooter in the entire draft. But look at their starting backcourt potentially. When you look at Sebastian Telfair and him, they don't have a lot of athleticism, and the question as to whether or not they're going to be able to defend on the perimeter has to be raised as we head into next season.
You mentioned Telfair from here in New York. He was the first-round pick in 2004. Travis Outlaw was the first-round pick in 2003. That's 3 consecutive years that Portland's taken a high school player in the first round. Dick Vitale, your thoughts on this selection?
Well, you know, certainly a great shooter, reminiscent of a guy like Dennis Scott when Dennis Scott was able to shoot the basketball. However, you put this down, my friends, and I agree with Stephen A. about the chaos out there. No coach, no leadership, no guidance. Bottom line is the choice that they're going to regret not making, Antoine Wright. Antoine Wright is a terrific second guard who's ready to play right now and give him some strength, maturity. Martell Webster down the road, going to be a very good player. But you better wait. And the new coach, when he negotiates that contract, he better say, baby, look at my guards. You better give me a long-termer.
That's the team without a coach like Milwaukee. Talk about that in a minute. But first to Stu with the newest Portland Trailblazers.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Martell, I know that once you committed to Washington, you had a lot of differing advice whether or not to go to college or go to the NBA. How tough was it hearing so many different things?
You know, at first it was real tough, but then, the moral support of my family, Inland as well, made the decision a lot easier for me.
You heard the guys talking about it. Portland has a lot of question marks. There's no coach. Going there as a high school player, who has some leadership capabilities, how are you going to decide when to lead as a young kid and when to step back?
At the beginning, I'm going to, just stand my ground, take advice from the veterans. They really got a good leader there already, Sebastian Telfair, a high school player, they'll help me through the ropes. And, some of the veterans, will talk down to me, give me some experience.
All right, Martell, congratulations. Mike, his 82-year-old grandmother, Beulah Walker, was very close to. She was a pretty good baller back in the 1930s. Talk, Martell, a few things.
I was here. There's got a pretty good hat going as well, Stu. Congratulations to the Webster family. John Nash, general manager of the Portland Trail Blazers. We bring him in via video conference. John, with what you've learned overtaking high school players the last 2 years, why do you go there again?
Mike, first of all, we think we took an outstanding young man. He's a terrific character, somebody that we think Portland, the community of Portland, will be very, very proud of, in addition to him being a terrific player. He's a wonderful compliment. We do not expect him to be our starting two-guard this coming season. We have some veteran players, and we really expect to address the leadership issue in the offseason in free agency. We expect to sign a couple of veteran players that will help us get these younger guys on the right course. But with our experience, Travis Outlaw, a year and a half into his pro career, stepped in this year in midseason and started playing. Sebastian Telfair made a contribution a lot sooner, I think, than some of the panelists from a year ago would have suspected. So we're very, very comfortable with the young man as a player. We're very comfortable with his maturity level, and we think that his character is such that we're delighted to add him. And somebody said he might be the best shooter in the draft. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
John, we have other questions, but Toronto's done with their time, so we hopefully will talk to you later on tonight. Thank you.
All right, Mike.
John Nash there in Portland, the Toronto Raptors, first of 2 first-round selections, here at number 7 overall, and here's the commissioner with the Raptors.
With the 7th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Toronto Raptors select Charlie Villanueva from the University of Connecticut.
Charlie Villanueva, the 3rd Connecticut first-round selection in the last 2 years. Emeka Okafor and Ben Gordon. Second team All-Big East performer. A little higher than I think some people thought Charlie Villanueva would go in this draft at 7 overall, Jay.
Shocking to me. Charlie Villanueva is a good talent. He is long, he is athletic, he's got a very good skill level. Some have questioned his work ethic and his ability to be a winner in the future. Question his heart, really. So I do think this is a very surprising pick. When Danny Granger was on the board, Joey Graham was on the board, guys like Hakeem Warwick, Channing Frye, it's a surprise.
Well, yeah, first of all, congratulations to Charlie Villanueva, but I don't know what Toronto's mindset is, because last time I checked, they had Chris Bosh at that position. They've not necessarily improved their roster, and Jay alluded to, you had a lot of guys who would have been a great complement to a Chris Bosh on that basketball team. They had so many areas where they needed to fill up the holes. I don't think they've addressed that in this draft, and I guess it goes back to what they started doing last year when they drafted Araji.
The pick makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. All due respect to Charlie Villanueva, he's going to be a solid pro, but you already have Chris Bosh. And when you think about the fact that this team got hoodwinked when you traded away Vince Carter virtually for nothing, again, we sit here today wondering what on earth is Rob Babcock doing? What is he doing?
2 points here. You hear the House is interested. One, because a lot of UConn fans of Villanueva, the Knicks are on the clock. That's the magic words in New York. New York's on the clock in the draft. We'll get there in a second. Dick Vitale and Charlie Villanueva. Richard?
Well, I'll tell you this, absolutely shocked. Can't believe he would go that high. Averaged 11 points a game in 2 years, was inconsistent. I certainly wish him the best, and I wish nothing but success for him. He's long, he can run, he's athletic, he can be as good as he wants. But with guys on the board, Danny Granger, are you kidding me? A terrific offensive player. Joey Graham with his athletic ability, and several others. What about Sean May? Are you kidding? Sean May, great post player. I can't understand that choice.
Well, Villanueva is the pick to Toronto, and Charlie's standing by with Stuart Scott. Stuart, go ahead.
Mike, the interesting thing during this draft is when you get a player sitting up here like Charlie Villanueva, and it's a surprise, he's hearing every analyst say, I can't believe this. This is a shock. You've got so-and-so on the board and so-and-so on the board. What runs through your mind hearing all that?
I just go out there and just go play hard. You know what I mean? A lot of people doubt me, but I always believe in myself. So that's one thing you got to have faith in.
Some people have questioned your work ethic. Your college coach, Coach Calhoun, once said that he thought at one time you had the least confidence of anybody on the team. What do you say to that?
I think when I first went into the college level, I thought I knew it all. I definitely didn't know how to work hard. But Coach Calhoun, 2 years under him, he's a great teacher, and I'll definitely learn how to work hard.
Well, the Knicks may be in the clock, Mike, but Charlie Villanueva, it's Brooklyn in. It's Brooklyn in. It's Brooklyn in the house.
Yeah, he's a New Yorker. It's his moment as well. You saw Spike Lee sitting. The Knicks fans are waiting. Some of them would like to see New York take Gerald Green, the high school out of Texas. Mark Jones is up there with the Knicks fans. Mark?
Hey, guys, rode the 9 train and the 1 uptown and downtown for most of the day, trying to put my finger on the pulse of what exactly most of these Knicks fans are thinking tonight. Went through the stands a few moments ago. They're saying, some of them, that this might be one of the most important drafts in the Knicks history, trying to dig them out of the quagmire of the salary restrictions that they're under right now and their enormous payroll. Who do you think they should take? Is it Fry? Is it Green? Who do you think?
I'm guessing Fry. Fry all the way.
Gotta be Fry. Channing Frye? Who do you think? Guys, the pressure's on Isaiah to make a move here. Back to you.
For Isaiah Thomas, the president of basketball operations for the Knicks. This is the first time he's had the number 1 overall selection all to himself. And there has been open discussion about Channing Frye throughout, so this might be the pick here.
Well, yeah, I'm hearing that might be the pick, but I'm hoping it's not, because when I look at Channing Frye, I'm seeing a guy that's very, very talented, but basically frail, and I want a legitimate center. And if you're not a legitimate center, how about going for that small forward spot, a scorer and a defender at that spot?
I'll tell you what, the young man out of New Mexico, I think is an amazing talent, and I've spoken to Jay a lot about this. I think this guy has a chance to be an impact player. He's a tremendous defensive player, very skilled offensively, and I think he would be a nice complement to what the Knicks are trying to do.
No disagreement there, but I've got Channing Frye as the best available talent on the board right now.
The Knicks need size, too. That's why it's been discussed. Wouldn't it be nice if the Knicks fans were happy with the pick? Here's the commissioner.
With the 8th pick in the 2005 draft, the New York Knicks select Channing Frye from the University of Arizona.
Welcome to New York. I would say 60% positive reception for Channing Frye out of Arizona. Second Pac-10 career block list. Jay, a player who is a senior, so the Knicks get a guy who may have a better chance of contributing right away.
I'm a big believer in Channing Frye. He's very skilled. He's very polished. He can really shoot it from mid-range. You can play pick and roll with him all day long, pick and pop. He can knock shots down at a high rate. People have questioned whether he can be a big-time rebounder. He needs to improve in that area, in my judgment, but he is a terrific shot blocker. I do think he is a tough kid. I have heard his toughness questioned from time to time. I like him as a player. I think he's got a very bright future on the NBA level. He's got a 7'2" wingspan. I think he's going to be a player.
For me, the one thing I look at him and I'm saying to myself, there's no question about his talent. Nobody's disputing that. But when I look at him, I see a power forward. I wanted a center. The guy he's got to get in the weight room as far as I'm concerned. There have been some questions about whether or not he's ready because of the physical, grueling grind that the NBA will present to you. That's the question about this kid. Not his skills, but how tough is he going to be at that size, banging inside against some big bodies? That's my only question about him, and that's the only reason I didn't.
Well, and Jay talks about his ability to play pick and pop or pick and roll. The question is, can he guard the pick and pop and the pick and roll? And secondly, can he rebound the basketball at a high enough level to really have an impact on the Knicks roster that was dominated on the glass? That's an area where they have to try and improve. The question is, can Channing Frye deliver?
And he has been in the weight room. He benched 185 in Chicago 19 times, among the best in Chicago. That kid's tough enough. He'll play.
He is a humble, classy kid. He's media savvy. He'll be ready for New York. His mom was a television reporter in Phoenix, so he knows what dealing with the media is all about. He deals with mom all the time. Here he is with Stewart.
Mike, Channing's been sitting here about a minute. In the first 30 seconds, he was just talking. And it wasn't to me. It was just himself. He was going, man, woo. He even hit me one time. Like, man, how crazy is this that you got 75 of your friends and the hopes and dreams of maybe 10 million people resting on your shoulders right now?
That's fine. I think with my hard work, I think I'll be all right. And I love New York, and I'm glad to come back home.
New York City has had this thing with the draft, whether it's football, whether it's basketball. Patrick Ewing in the first lottery 20 years ago. It's been kind of dry since then, except for Greg Anthony. How much pressure does that put on you that so many people expect so much?
It's a lot of pressure, but it's not anything that I don't put on myself. I want to go out here and do the best that I can and make this team a winning team, and I think that's what people of New York deserve.
Mike, he's a well-rounded guy, but for some reason, Channing Frye does not like basketball movies. He said Hoosiers was okay. Go figure.
Well, Spike Lee doesn't want to hear that, does he? Born in White Plains, New York, he'll be training up in Westchester County. It's where the Knicks train before they come here. Spike approves. The Knicks fans, I think, mostly approve. Channing Frye selected by New York. Golden State next. Hi, back here in New York, the 2005 NBA Draft. Golden State, now on the clock, has the longest current playoff drought, 11 years, although the season ended in exciting fashion. After Baron Davis came in, they went 18-10. Since his addition, guys, ticket sales strong. They're very excited about the Warriors in the Bay Area.
Well, they should be because Baron Davis is there. But do me a favor. Please get some rebounding. You're ranked 30th in the league last year. You were last in rebounding. Rebounded basketball. Find somebody that can do that.
It'd be nice, but you may not find it. But how about just getting a guy who can have an impact, bring some athleticism and versatility to that roster?
Do you have a suggestion, or you just want him to do that?
Well, that's what I would do.
I have one. Ike Diagu.
Here's the commissioner.
With the 9th pick in the 2005 draft, the Golden State Warriors select Ike Diagu from Arizona State University. Ike is not here.
That is the player that Jay was referencing. It might help Stephen in that account that the Warriors gave up more rebounds per game than anybody in the league. Just taken right before him, Channing Frye from Arizona, but this young man was the Pacific 10 Player of the Year.
Out of Dallas, he's only 6'8", but he's got a wingspan of 7'4.5". He may be a little bit of a small power forward, but he's an Elton Brand type player. He can really score, and Mikey's got an unbelievable touch from difficult areas to score within the lane and the short corner. A great touch. Absolutely lives at the free throw line, and he's a much better shooter and a much better athlete than people realize. He's a great kid. I think he's vastly underrated as a player. The only question I have, can he guard face up out on the perimeter when he's got to guard a really athletic forward?
Yeah, lived at the line is right. 10 free throws a game, scored double figures every game. He carried a team year after year after year, stayed in when somebody should have just gone, but Ike Diagu now goes to the Golden State Warriors. Oh, the Lakers in the lottery. The Los Angeles Lakers, always a topic of conversation. L.A. is on the clock. Phil Jackson, when we heard yesterday, was going to be in Montana. We'll talk to Jim Gray out in L.A. after this. All right, Linda, thank you. The Wake Up at Wimbledon show starts at 7 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2, the Grand Slam Network, as the coverage of the championships continues through Sunday. American Express Draft Track Time. What has happened here in the draft so far? Andrew Bogut going number 1, first Aussie ever selected at the top of the NBA draft, first time since 2000. A college player, number 1 overall. North Carolina heard from it, number 2, Marvin Williams, taken by the Atlanta Hawks. The draft day trade between Utah and Portland allows the Jazz to come up to get Darren Williams from Illinois and get the point guard. Lakers on the clock. Jim Gray covering out in Los Angeles. Jim, what's going on with LA?
Well, Mike, first thing that's going on is Phil Jackson is watching us in Montana right now. He was dismissed by Dr. Jerry Buss, and Mitch Kupchak, the general manager, is handling the draft. They tell us Mitch Kupchak because he has scouted all year. That's not Phil's forte. He is really not familiar with the international players and the college players. He is involved in the decision, and he would be involved in any trades. This is a roster that, by Phil's assessment, has a lot of holes. It needs a lot of help. It looks like they're going to have an opportunity now. Some of these players who they didn't think were going to be there, Granger, Green, and Warwick, are available now. And at number 10, they hope to get somebody like Joe Johnson or Paul Pierce or somebody who can contribute right away, Mike.
All right, Jim, we'll be back to you during the night. Let's see what the Lakers are going to do as their time is up on the clock. And we'll go to the commissioner. Rare that we see the Lakers this early on draft night, but a chance for an impact player as they retool around Kobe Bryant.
With the 10th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Andrew Bynum from St. Joseph's High School in Metuchen, New Jersey.
Andrew seated here in the house. Rare to see the Lakers draft a high school player. Remember, Charlotte took Kobe Bryant when it was the Charlotte Hornets franchise and made the trade. But Bynum, another McDonald's high school All-American. And when you think about the Lakers, you think of a couple of things. Athleticism they need, size they need. This is size.
It is size. He's 7 feet tall, almost 300 pounds, about 290. He's got a 7'4" wingspan. He's got good feet. He was headed to UConn, but had a really good game in the Jordan All-Star game. And after that, he decided he was going to be a pro after that and has been rising up the charts. And it shows you when we discussed Andrew Bogut, how difficult it is to get a quality big man in the NBA. He's risen up to number 10. Is he worthy of that? He may be over time, but it's going to take him a little bit of time to be an impact player. He's a project. He needs to learn to run the floor better, but I think he's a really solid prospect for the future, not for right now.
Yeah, he's talking about future. He may hold for the long time the youngest player ever taken in the draft. 17 years, 8 months, 2 days. He is the youngest one in draft history. Andy Katz has been following all these high school players. Andy?
That's right, Mike. He doesn't even turn 18 until October 27th. A huge sigh of relief for the Bynum family. They shut down their workouts after working out for the Lakers in Portland and having an all NBA workout in New York City on June 4th. This family from the get-go felt comfortable that he was going in the lottery. That's why they decided to stay in the draft and not go to Connecticut where he signed. So a huge sigh of relief for the family that he goes at number 10 to the Lakers. Mike?
Yeah, UConn was his destination. And again, Jim Calhoun continuing to recruit these good players and have a decision. Remember, Charlie Villanueva looked like he might have been going to the NBA. Was suspended for his first 6 games in college because of that. Jay, is this a reach at all by the Lakers at number 10?
I don't know that it's a reach. I mean, there are some players who would be of immediate help that are on the board right now. Guys like Hakeem Warwick, Danny Granger. I think Francisco Garcia from Louisville, who I know the Lakers were looking at as well. But this is a good pick. I don't know that it's a great pick. It'll be 3 years before we can tell.
Well, we talked about his age. There he is, a dozen days younger than Jermaine O'Neal, selected 9 years ago. And there, as we mentioned, Kobe Bryant selected by Charlotte. Draft night trade for Vlade Divac with the Lakers. But because of the age minimum coming in the new 6-year collective bargaining agreement, where a player has to be 19 at the end of the calendar year and 1 year removed from his high school graduating class, Andrew Bynum may be at the top of this list for a long time, Stuart Scott.
Mike, he went to his high school prom May 18th. Yeah. From the high school prom to the saga that is the Lakers. You've got Phil, you've got Kobe. When your name was announced, what was the first thought that ran through your mind?
Wow, man, I get to play with Kobe Bryant and to be coached by Phil Jackson, the 2 most winning people in basketball. And, hopefully I can go there, be an impact player and deliver another championship.
What was the best advice that you got about turning pro right out of high school?
The best advice that I got was just turning my workouts up a lot, working out really hard. I got my coach, Larry Marshall, back there to thank for that. He's been helping me work out, run on the beach, doing all sorts of things, lifting weights.
Your favorite course in high school was physics?
Yes.
Not philosophy?
No, just physics.
All right, just point of reference. Avoid ending up in a book written by your coach. All right?
All right.
Congratulations, Andrew. Mike, back to you.
Thank you, Stu. Here's Mitch Kupchak, the GM of the Lakers, with Jim Gray in L.A. Jim?
All right, Mike, thank you. Andrew Bynum, I don't think anybody was thinking about Andrew, maybe other than you guys. Is this a pick for the future? It doesn't seem as though the youngest player ever drafted in NBA history can provide immediate help.
Well, it's very unusual that you can get a center in the draft. There just aren't that many. And with Andrew being 7 feet tall, 17 years old, he's going to be 18 this fall. And with his skill level, his athleticism, we just felt at the 10th pick, it was our best chance to get a center for the future. Certainly, we don't know how it's going to turn out, but as far as we can tell with the checks we've run and the workouts that we've attended, everything that he has leads you to believe that he could be a center down the road.
What impressed you most in what you saw?
Well, we've seen him quite a bit in the last 3 or 4 months through the high school all-star venue, the McDonald's tournament. He's lost 20 pounds, so he's dedicated himself in the last month or so. The workout that we attended, his size, he's got a 7'6" plus reach. He's pretty athletic for a big fellow. His dedication to work and to be in condition, and his skill level is pretty good too. And I think you have to factor in that he's really not even 18 years old yet.
Mitch, what was Phil Jackson's role in all of this? He's not here tonight, and we explained that to the audience a bit earlier.
Phil is completely on board, with the decision. Once again, this organization, in particular with Dr. Buss, he's not risk adverse. He encourages us to take a risk, to take a chance, to roll the dice, so to speak. And Phil is completely on board with the ability or the possibility that we might get a center down the road. Of course, we have to address our immediate need, which is to give ourselves a chance to be more competitive this season. But we just, once again, felt it was just too much of an opportunity to pass on.
We appreciate your time. We got another pick coming. Hopefully we can talk about your needs a bit later on in the draft.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Mitch. All right, back to you, Mike.
Thank you, Jim. Steven, thought on the Laker pick?
I think it was a good pick by Mitch Kupchak, thank goodness. And now Kobe Bryant, he wants to be a leader. You've got a young kid there. You can lead. Let's see you step up and do it.
Well, you talk about stability for young players. No more stable situation than to go and be taught by Phil Jackson, one of the great teachers in the game of basketball in terms of the NBA. I think this goes a long way in giving them some stability on that front line.
Next pick, Orlando, number 11. Let's go back over our shoulder to the commissioner. We went through the top 10. Only two high school players, I should say, that's right, the top 10. No international players. We have not had an international player taken in the top 10 in the last couple of years. Fran Fraschilla is covering the international players for us, and Fran will tell us the reasoning behind that and why the international players have really gone from very attractive to some NBA teams to a little more research and understanding of what risks you take when you do select an international player. Maybe that's why you didn't see one in the top 10 the last couple of years. Let's go to the commissioner and get Orlando's pick here at number 11.
With the 11th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Orlando Magic select Fran Vasquez from Spain.
Vasquez, again, just to make the distinction, they have Andrew Bogut, who obviously is Australian, and will fit under one definition of international player. But then we're talking about players who played here in the U.S. before coming right to the NBA. Vasquez did not play in American high school, obviously from Spain, and did not attend college like Bogut did. But he will be a member of the Orlando Magic. As mentioned, our Fran Fraschilla, you see him on our college basketball coverage, college basketball coach, a very good one in his day. Fran, you traveled to see a lot of these players in person. Give me the read on Vasquez from Spain.
Well, the first thing, Mike, remember the last first-round pick from Spain was a guy named Paul Gasol, another 7-footer who's had a pretty good career so far. Fran Vasquez is a low-risk pick for Orlando. He's very experienced for his age. He's 22 years old. He averaged about 9 points a game in the second-best league in the world, the Spanish ACB League. He's got a good set of offensive skills, not yet a great defender, but he is going to be a very good complement to Dwight Howard inside. He's more of a power forward than a center, but he does get the ball in the basket, and I think this is a really good pick as Orlando builds back that franchise with Howard and Vasquez.
Fran, you said second best league, so are his stats and thus assessing his abilities in the NBA a little bit easier to do because you're watching him against good people?
You're absolutely right, Michael. All the NBA teams who are following the international scene much closer had a chance to see this guy play a lot, not only in the ACB ACB League, but also in the Euro League, which brings the best professional teams in Europe together every season. So this guy has played at a high level. You don't even want to think of him as a college senior at 22. This guy has played the equivalent of AAA baseball by playing in this ACB League. It's a very low risk. I think he's going to be not necessarily an impact player, but a guy that will help the Magic right away.
And Fran made the point to us as we prepared in our meetings that there'll be a border we'll cross in the 20s where we'll see more international players taken later in the first round, early in the second. And Fran has gone overseas to see these people individually, so he'll give you a great idea of how they may fit to your team. Stuart Scott's over there as Vasquez and the translator are sitting down with him.
Thanks a lot, Mike. I'm your translator, Jose Cobello.
Yeah.
Although I might ask you to tell me something in Spanish, too. All right. One of the biggest knocks, or one of the biggest question marks, has been whether or not you're a power forward or a center. Which one do you want to play?
¿Qué es la mayor pregunta es que eres un power forward, un 4 o un 5, un center?
Bueno, soy un 5 ahora mismo. Estoy mejorando poco a poco y jugar de 4.
Now in this moment he's a center, but he tried to improve each day to try to play like power forward.
Why is it so important for international players to come and do well in the NBA?
¿Qué es lo más importante para un jugador internacional para venir a la NBA?
Bueno, estoy rodeado de gente tan importante aquí en América y sobre todo poder disfrutar un baloncesto totalmente diferente y abierto, ¿no?
To be in a group with important players and to enjoy with a different sport like Euro basketball.
All right, congratulations. Thank you. Going down to see Mickey Mouse, Mike.
Fran Vasquez to the Orlando Magic. We have the LA Clippers on the clock at number 12. There is another international player who is waiting here in New York in the green room, so we will see when that selection will happen later on here in the opening round. Is not only international players, high school players and college players now get to the dangerous moment. People told you may be going 10, 11. Now it's wait and watch and see what the Clippers will do, followed by Charlotte and Minnesota as the lottery wraps up. Back here at the 2005 NBA Draft in New York, the Clippers back in the lottery.
With the 12th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Clippers select Yaroslav Korolev from Russia.
We saw Korolev right before break. He is the 4th Russian selected in the first round of the last couple of drafts, a member of the under-18 national team for Russia last year. The Clippers very often in the lottery, 18th lottery pick for this team, more than any other. And of all those lottery picks, only one has ever represented the Clippers in an All-Star game, Danny Manning. It might be a long way from answering that question for Korolev, but the Russian is taken here with the number 12 picks. We have back-to-back players who will be new to the U.S. Vasquez to the Magic, and Fran Fraschilla, Yaroslav Korolev from Moscow to the Clippers with love.
Mike, this guy will have no problem communicating with Mike Dunleavy. He speaks perfect English and great Spanish as well. His dad was a Russian coach who's coached around the world. He's a small forward who's got a variety of skills. Good athlete who can dunk the ball, shoot it from outside, also handle the ball in the break. But this is a high-risk, high-reward pick. He's only 18, and he's had most of his success at the junior level. Mike Dunleavy personally scouted him in May. They like his upside, but the problem will be, I don't think he's going to have an impact on the Clippers franchise for at least 3 years. Don't be surprised if they send him back to Europe to get seasoning by playing in one of those leagues.
So Vasquez played against far better talent than Korolev did.
Vasquez is 22, Korolev is 18. Vasquez, the college senior, Korolev, the McDonald's All-American.
Great stuff, Fran. Thanks. Here is Korolev. Let's test out some of that English. Before we go to Korolev and Stuart Scott, I beg your pardon, let's go to Dick Vitale first. Dick, we've had back-to-back players with no U.S. experience taken here at 11 and 12, the back end of the lottery.
You know, Mike, I certainly don't know these players, Vasquez and Korolev, like Fran does and watching them. But I do know Sean May and Granger and Green, and I can't believe that these guys are being bypassed. I think there's a tendency to look at the foreign player and we get enamored. And we look at our own kids and we find all their faults. I know this, though, it's a fact. 20 international players taken in a first round in the last 3 years, and only one has made an impact, Yao Ming. 2 others have played and have contributed. When you talk about certainly Welsh, and you talk about right now, we look at certainly Ginobili and Parker have made an impact with San Antonio. But you take a look right now, Nene has contributed down in Denver, but the only impact guy has been Yao Ming. I think we have a tendency to overlook our own kids. Man, I would have rather seen Sean May or Granger or certainly the young kid who has slipped down in the draft, Green.
Obviously playing popular with our American audience here. Let's hear from Korolev for a second. Now standing by with Stu. Go ahead, Stu.
We heard Jay Bilas talking about it. You're 18 years old. You haven't had much time. You haven't had much playing time above the junior level. How do you think you can go in and compete against NBA players right now?
I think that my thing is that I'm not I'm a team player, and I'm not selfish. So I like to come to the team, look who's the man, and I just will make whatever I can do, the best to be there.
Even though you're only 18 years old, you speak out in support of international players and why it seems like international players want to work so hard to play here. Why is that?
Because I think that there's every year more and more international players in the NBA, and we look to each other and we want to go. Everybody want to be here, so we just look that they are good. They are champions like Manu Ginobili, and everybody we want to be like them. So we going up.
All right, congratulations, Mike. Yaroslav's father played professional basketball in Russia. Started this guy playing hoops when he was 6 years old.
Congratulations to the Korolev family. Stephen, your thought on these 2 picks here?
I can't believe it, and let me say this right now. There's been a lot of turnovers in front offices throughout this league the last couple of years, and I'm predicting we're going to see a couple of more. There are 2 national champions over there in Sean May and Rashad McCants. How do they get passed up is beyond me. You're Orlando and you pass up Sean May. You're the Los Angeles Clippers and you pass up McCants, who hit 62 of 75 shots from three-point range and beyond. You don't pick one of these guys, if not both of them. Let's go. Right, Greg.
It's a little surprising because you think the overall depth of those young men should allow them to step in and have an immediate impact right away. Also, you look at Gerald Green, who's available, and I think the guy who might be the sleeper of this draft is Granger. I think this guy could be the big catch of this draft.
Yeah, it's a little bit puzzling, but these teams do their homework more than people think. I mean, I trust Mike Dunleavy that Korolev's going to be a good player, just not right now.
Charlotte has already taken a Tar Heel. Let's see what they do here.
With the 13th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Bobcats select Sean May from the University of North Carolina.
Mike, it's going to be hilarious because I didn't mean for Charlotte to.
Charlotte's got him now, Stephen. And they've got another Tar Heel. So there's 2 Tar Heels for the Charlotte Bobcats with their selections, Raymond Felton and Sean May. So they will obviously be very welcome, and it's very important, too, from a business standpoint, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's not overlook the big picture. The most outstanding player of the Final Four, there's Scott May. Of course, Sean's dad, who led Indiana, the best player on the Indiana team, to have the last perfect season in collegiate basketball, 1976, and they went 32-0. More about Sean, who had the great 21st birthday on National Championship night.
Mike, Charlotte made out like bandits with this 13th pick to get Sean May. I think, along with Andrew Bogut, the best hands of any big guy in the draft. He is long with a reach of about 7'2". He is really productive on the glass. Multiple games this year, especially in big games, over 20 rebounds. He's got a terrific left hand inside. He's got a great touch and made a real commitment this year to getting in shape and running the floor. I think Sean May can be a really good player in the NBA. The only question mark I have on him, does he guard pick and roll situations as a 4? Can he guard a super athletic 4 facing the basket? I think he's going to be a very productive rebounder in this league, and Charlotte was very fortunate to get him at 13.
May going from North Carolina, staying in state with the Bobcats. So we have now 3 North Carolina players taken. Marvin Williams earlier by Atlanta, Raymond Felton by Charlotte. It's just a Carolina party for the Bobcats. Now Sean May. So you have 3 of the top 13. Where does that rank historically? Add up the total number, 20. Go to Duke in 99. They're 3 in the first 13 picks, 25 total. 22 the total for UNLV when Greg was taken 12. This is about as good as we've had in recent memory. 3 players, 1 college, first 13. His dad, Scott, standing by with Mark Jones. Mark?
Scott, I remember your son telling me just a couple days ago that you really got on him recently about getting in great condition to be ready for his special moment like this and to up his stock. Why did you see the need for him to do that?
Well, the NBA draft or playing in the NBA, it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and you got to play hard, you got to be in condition to play, and so I tried to talk to him about those things.
You've really tried to stay in the background during this whole time. And it wasn't until recently that your son actually saw the DVD, the tape of your championship game. What was the inspiration for that?
Well, I always kind of believe that this is Sean's moment. This is his thing. I've done it. I've had my time, and I just wanted him to have an opportunity to play in the league and fulfill his goal and be a good player.
All right, Mike, a great cycle. He was number 2 back in 1976, and, well, his son is really doing great things just starting out.
And, Mark, if you go back to 1957, the first year of documented round-by-round info on the draft, Sean joins his dad, Scott, the 8th father-son combo to be drafted in the first round, and very familiar names all the way through. Quite an accomplishment. The Mays, number 8 in the father-son first-round drafts. Standing by with Stewart now. Sean Bennett.
Sean, what's it like when you're sitting over there in the green room and guys are being drafted that even have our analysts scratching their head? What's going on?
It's tough. You think that you've done your work up to this point, winning a national championship, conducting yourself in a manner that teams would see respectable, the character that you deliver, and they're taking guys, younger guys, who really haven't proven themselves yet. But for me, I'm excited at the opportunity that I have ahead of me, and like I told you earlier, I'm just glad to get my name off that board.
What have you and Raymond said together about the possibility maybe of playing together in the state where you played college basketball?
Ray told me yesterday that, he thought there may be a chance that might happen. And me being the person that I am, my luck, it was never going to be that good. And I felt Darren or Chris would be there instead of Raymond. I felt I always had a good shot with Charlotte. For me to get an opportunity to play with Ray again, he's going to make my life a lot easier like he did in college by throwing me those passes and me finishing layups down low. And it's going to be fun. It's a great fit for both of us.
Do you know how many points your dad scored in the 1976 national title game?
26.
How many points did you score in the 2005 national title game?
26.
You can't get symmetry any better than that, Mike.
And happiness, too, for both Mays. Scott and Sean, so 3 Carolina players taken here in the first 13 picks. And Rashad McCants waits. Will he be the next one? Will he make it in here, the final lottery spot belonging to the Minnesota Timberwolves, a team that got to the Western Conference Finals in 2004. Of course, eliminated by the Lakers in a disappointing season, leading to Flip Saunders being changed out as the head coach and fired. So what will Minnesota do in the lottery? Final lottery choice. Let's go back to the commissioner.
With the 14th pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Rashad McCants from the University of North Carolina.
McCants becomes the 4th Carolina player taken in the first round and ties the 99 Duke team for the most first-round picks in the same NBA draft. A pretty happy moment for Roy Williams. Hey, no wonder they won the championship. They have 4 of the top 14. And McCants goes to Minnesota.
I love Rashad McCants as an offensive player. I thought over the last 2 years he was the most gifted offensive player in the country. He is long-armed with a 6'10.5" wingspan. He can really shoot the ball effortlessly from deep. He can post up. He can put the ball on the floor. He's got the complete package on the offensive end. The only question mark, if I had a nickel for every time he really got down and guarded people, I'd have a nickel. He needs to learn to guard people, but hopefully he will.
That was one of the great draft moments. Hi, Mr. Commissioner. I'm here for my handshake and my picture. And here are the pictures of Rashad as a Tar Heel national champion.
Well, I think, again, as Jay alluded to, this guy's the most complete offensive player in the draft. And when you talk about Minnesota, remember, this is a team that is on the verge of being able to compete for a championship, at least in their mind. So this is a guy who have an opportunity to step in right away and play with the big ticket. I think that bodes well for his development as well as for the Timberwolves.
Well, the bottom line is this guy, they're saying that he's got an attitude problem. He doesn't play enough defense. All he needs to do is go out there and do his job because this is a big-time basketball player. This guy asked teams to watch him, prove to them that he can shoot three-point shots. We know that he's unstoppable offensively. And when you look at him and imagine him with the big ticket, Kevin Garnett, it could be a very, very special thing. All he's got to do is go in there and do his job. He's already a winner because he's a national champion. Show it on the next level.
Here is what I was talking about a second ago, guys. The commissioner was sitting here listening to us, and Rashad said, wait a minute, I do not want to get gypped of my picture. I'm here for my handshake. We were talking about this, joking around. Players, and for 20 years, David Stern's been doing this at the draft. They wait for that moment. 21 drafts like that. So the handshake there. And by the way, hello and our best wishes to Fred Hoiberg of the Minnesota Timberwolves. You know, Fred, one of the top three-point shooters in the league at the Mayo Clinic today, had a heart procedure done because of an enlarged aortic root. This was found last week, came to light, and Fred had that surgery today. So while we're on Minnesota there for a minute, our thoughts with Fred. Well, Charlotte has taken two North Carolina Tar Heels. Bernie Bickerstaff in the draft room making those deals as the head coach and the general manager. We will visit with Bernie in a little bit. It's a Carolina night for the top 14 national champion Tar Heels.
Welcome back to the NBA Draft on ESPN. In the last 9 years, 4 North Carolina Tar Heels were drafted in the first round. This year alone, 4 Tar Heels drafted in the first round. The last of the 4, Rashad McCants. Rashad, a lot of athletes might have initials of somebody who inspired them on their tennis shoes. You've got more than 36 initials of people who've inspired you, symbols. Why so many?
It's more inspiration for me. You know, I need a lot of motivation on the court. And, you know, sometimes when your jumper's not going down or, you know, you're not really doing the things you're accustomed to doing, you look down at your shoes and it reminds you of how good and how talented you are and how you need to, you know, prepare to be a great player.
At several times in your college career, people question your attitude. And one time you were benched for not cheering for your team. A lot of things with your first coach. What don't people understand about you?
I think that my passion for winning is very misunderstood and that, you know, it took us 3 years to win a championship, but sometimes it takes guys 10 years. And with the passion to win that I have and the lack of respect of my attitude, you know, I just think I need to get out there and just prove people that I'm a good guy and that I can play basketball.
You're a very private person, but Sean May did a lot to help you kind of open up. And Mike, this guy, he writes poetry every day. He puts it down in his journal.
Well, Stu, you talk about May and McCants and their friendship, and here are their moms after the back-to-back selections, seeing their young men selected by Charlotte and Minnesota. The New Jersey Nets on the clock. Here's the commissioner.
With the 15th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the New Jersey Nets select Antoine Wright from Texas A&M University.
Came to a prep school in New England, long way from a rough upbringing in San Bernardino, California. Here he is, selected in the first round by the New Jersey Nets halfway through the first. Jay?
I had Antoine Wright rated as the 13th best prospect in this draft. He's a very good athlete. He's a terrific shooter with really good range, and he's got the ability to take and to make tough shots. I think in the past people questioned whether he was really a winner, whether he was a defender, but he answered all those questions last year playing under Billy Gillispie. He started playing with a smile on his face and playing with more passion. I think this young man can really play. He's athletic and he can shoot it. That's going to bode very well for him in the future.
the Nets selection here. Obviously, the Nets are very excited about what happened at the end of their season with Vince Carter and Jason Kidd playing together. Jason Kidd, after early on Stephen A, talking about maybe it would be time to go look somewhere else and want to play somewhere else. Seems very interested and excited and enthused about being a Net. He's got a new teammate.
Well, I spoke to Jason Kidd a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying basically that, you know what, he's very excited about the upcoming season. But understand something, have no problem with the pick. We understand this guy's an athlete. He's a quality basketball player, will contribute. But the New Jersey Nets need some size on that front line.
So Antoine Wright, the highest ever selection for a Texas A&M player. Sonny Parker, number 17 in 1976, was in that spot before, but Wright, the guard taken from the New Jersey Nets. We talked about the teams with multiple picks in this draft. We have another couple coming up, but the Charlotte Bobcats were up there early, and we thank Bernie Bickerstaff, their head coach and general manager, for joining us via video conference and being patient with us as we visited with a couple of players, including Sean May. These two Carolina players, obviously you want to take the best available guy. How much of an influence that you had teammates to be able to be taken in this first round, did that factor into your decision, Bernie?
Well, I think it's important. Last year we got a guy from a championship basketball team. This year with Raymond Felton, he was ranked at the third best guard. I had a terrific conversation today with Roy Williams about his players, and these players represent they're the embody of what we want to be as a basketball team. They're quality young men. Raymond Felton can push the basketball. We want to play an up-tempo game. We need rebounding, and we need to improve our basketball IQ. I think that's where Sean May comes in. His ability to get the basketball. We found out in our workouts that he could step out on the floor and shoot the basketball. He has terrific hands, and he can really go to the glass. And that's one of our weaknesses there. We need help on the glass.
Well, you get two players who certainly will help put people in the seats in the new building as well. Bernie, thank you. We'll visit with you as we go on. Bernie Bickerstaff in Charlotte. Stuart Scott standing by with the newest New Jersey Nets. Stu.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Antoine, when you were 14 years old, your older brother Tony had a lot to do with sending you from California to a prep school in New England, and you hated it. How did it help you as a man?
It just helped me mature, and be able to handle being in tough situations, being able to handle being mature, growing faster, and, it was definitely a great decision for me.
Now, your brother took care of you. He couldn't take care of himself quite as well. He got into some trouble. He's in prison right now. He's getting out in a year. What's the first thing you are going to do when he gets out?
We're going to play one-on-one. I'm going to bring him up here, and he's so excited right now. I know he can't sit still right now. I can't wait to see you. I love you, man. We're going to play as soon as we get here.
Who wins in one-on-one?
I'm going to get him.
Oh, you going to get him?
Yeah. After all them years, I'm going to get him.
All right. Mike, Antoine, the highest Aggie ever drafted.
All right, Stuart, thank you. Now we have Toronto. We just heard from Charlotte a moment ago. Toronto with 2 picks here, and at number 7 earlier, if you're just joining us, you can always keep an eye on the entire draft down on the very bottom of the screen. They took Charlie Villanueva out of Connecticut, and although people think he will be a good pro, it was a surprise to a lot of the guys at number 7. Just to take a step back in the Toronto situation, Stephen and Greg, from an NBA perspective, this is a franchise that is looking for a direction and some stability right now.
Definitely. I just think they're lost. I don't know how I can be more blunt than that. Certainly they have a very good young coach in Sam Mitchell, but I believe they're lost.
Well, to me the question is, why would you draft the same position for 3 consecutive years? That's what I can't understand, that bottom line.
Having Chris Bosh there already.
Yes.
Well, I say they're lost.
It's a franchise that has undergone some front office questions of who makes the basketball decisions there. So they have many issues to deal with as we go to the commissioner for the Raptors pick, the Toronto team that, as Steve mentioned with Sam Mitchell, had to deal with some player issues last year.
With the 16th pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Toronto Raptors select Joey Graham from Oklahoma State University. Joey is not here.
At least he's a small forward.
Jay?
I
think Joey Graham is a terrific pick here. I had him rated in the top 10 among prospects. He is a big-time athlete. He's explosive. He can get to the basket. He's an outstanding mid-range jump shooter. I think he was the best athlete in this year's draft. He's got a 6'8" wingspan. The problem with Joey Graham, if you want to question him, he doesn't rebound at a high enough rate given his athleticism. But when he is aggressive and attacks, he's a big-time player. He's got big hands. When he's aggressive, he gets to the free throw line, but he shoots a really high percentage. He knocks down free throws. I think he's got the ability to be an outstanding NBA player. I thought at this pick it would be great to get Graham or Danny Granger. If not Granger, Graham was the right pick here.
Of course, if you followed college basketball during the year, you know that Joey at Oklahoma State, his twin brother Steven, was the 6th man on that Oklahoma State team. Joey owns a private pilot license. That is his release away from basketball, and he'll be taking it across the border now. Toronto Raptors. So Joey Graham and Charlie Villanueva added to the cast with the Toronto Raptors. That pick a little bit better?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Finally, I'm in a position to say something good about this. I mean, I am pleased with this pick because you have somebody to play alongside Chris Bosh, which is a good thing.
All right, Jay, who's left? Because we hear people, they want to know, where did this guy go? Who's slipping? Who's falling? That's all relative to where everyone had them in mock drafts. Who's still out there best available?
Best available athlete is Gerald Green, the high school kid from Gulf Shores Academy. I think the next best available player is Danny Granger out of New Mexico. Granger is very versatile. Then I would go with Hakeem Warwick out of Syracuse. You can question whether Warwick's a 3 or a 4. He's a player, and he's an athlete, and he's a vibrant, bouncy NBA athlete. I then go with Francisco Garcia and then Jared Jack as a point guard.
Well, the good news for these guys, although their guarantee will be less in the rookie wage scale because they're not going as high in the first round, they have a chance to go to some good teams in case there's playoff teams. There is Gerald Green, high school athlete out of Texas, Danny Granger awaits, the singer out of New Mexico, and Hakeem Warwick. All these guys waiting, wondering where their home will be. The fans here supporting them. They have to remember they're going to end up on playoff teams. The Indiana Pacers on the clock with the 17th overall pick in the draft, and back up to the commissioner.
With the 17th pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Indiana Pacers select Danny Granger from the University of New Mexico.
Among those players who have in this draft transferred, he started at Bradley, went to New Mexico, and thus becomes the highest New Mexico player selected since Luke Longley was taken number 7 some 14 years ago. Danny Granger for the Pacers.
Boy, he's versatile. He's got really long arms, a 7'1" wingspan, and he's a really good athlete with good shooting ability. I like his versatility. He's mean on the floor, which is a good thing. He can rebound, and he can also block shots. He actually blocks more shots than does Joey Graham, although I think Graham is a little bit better of an athlete. I'm really surprised that he has lasted this long. Danny Granger is a quality athlete, and he's a quality player who understands the game. He rebounds the basketball. He's got a 36-inch vertical, and he plays a physical brand of basketball. He's smart, and he's a good student. He can hit open threes. I really like him as a player. I think one thing he needs to work on, he's got a little bit of a weak left hand. He's got to improve that in order to be a 3. Right now, I think he's stuck a little bit between a 4 and a 3, but a solid pick at number 17.
You know, the guy I think of most when I see this young man is Scottie Pippen. I think he has a lot of those same types of characteristics. He's already shown an ability to stretch it out on the perimeter. He makes good decisions with the basketball, a very good finisher, and as Jay Billis alluded to, his ability to defend not only in the interior but out on the perimeter, I think fits in nicely with what the Pacers are going to do.
You have a Pacer team that's going to get Ron Artest back as his suspension comes to an end. And you also have a Pacer team that has players like Jonathan Bender. They're not sure exactly what's going to happen with him. He's been given opportunity after opportunity. But they do get a player not just with 4 years of college experience, but also, as you've seen throughout our show, talents off the basketball floor as well.
How about a rap? No. Okay. But I don't, okay. You must what? You're watching the NBA draft on ESPN. That's all.
Dan, was that a high C falsetto or what?
I don't know.
Never thought you'd see that again, right?
I never thought I would see
You
that.
figured that was a blooper, right?
I told them don't air it, but I guess they decided to do it.
Whenever you say don't air that in an interview, then it's going to end up on television.
Gotcha.
You grew up as a Jehovah's Witness.
Correct.
What do you think doing field ministry work, what about that is going to better prepare you for the NBA?
Well, I think the way that I was raised, I was real respectable, and I've done field ministry work, and I think it helps me be a more personable person when handling the media.
A lot of people say that old cliche, money doesn't buy you happiness, but you have a little bit different take on that. What is it?
I think it's about family. You can have the most money in the world, but if you don't have your family around you or love, then it really doesn't matter. So I think there's a lot more things more important than money.
All right. His dad built him a court outside his house when he was growing up, Michael. His dad said no cursing, no drugs, no drinking. Those were the rules, and they all had to follow them.
And the example that he followed was of his dad, who owned his own forklift business, repairing forklifts, worked at that business for 40 years. And Danny was telling me at the pre-draft camp in Chicago how to see his dad's hands, how hard he worked day after day after day. For him to give him that foundation to grow from and get to this level, he's excited about being able to do something now for his dad, who worked so hard for so many years. And he's taken by the Indiana Pacers. Dick Vitale, you've admired the play of Danny Granger.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Mike. I heard Greg Anthony say that he could be like a Scottie Pippen. If he's half that good, there's a lot of GMs that should be fired. But I know one guy that knows talent, and that's Larry Bird and Donnie Walsh. They do a terrific job with Indiana, and they got themselves a real gem. This guy is long, as Jay Billis said. He's got great range. He was a consistent scorer. 3 years, averaged consistently 19 a game, got 9 rebounds a game. I get so carried away sometimes hearing what all these people talk about. Quickness, jumping ability, wingspans. Hey, this is not track and field. This is basketball. And that's why Bernie Bickerstaff picked 2 winners in Felton and May. Both guys are winners. Sometimes we get so carried away with all the track and field stats.
That is true, Dick. That's an individual assessment, but how do they go into the team process that a lot of coaches and GMs look at? When you see coaches watching and assessing talent, can the guys play within our system, and can they achieve and excel in our system? And that's why some of the picks you see here, especially with guys in the deep draft, would be very important and fit teams. Like the one that's coming up for the Boston Celtics right now, as Boston selects 18th overall here in this first round. The Celtics at 45 and 37 this season.
With the 18th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Gerald Green from Gulf Shores Academy of Houston, Texas.
That's a nice pick for him.
This 3 picks after Al Jefferson was taken 15 by this team last year. Another player straight out of high school, this young man from Texas, Andy Katz. What can you tell us about this high school player?
Well, Mike, I actually just spoke with Boston when they're going to make this selection for Gerald Green, and they're absolutely thrilled that he fell to them. Through their talking throughout the NBA today, they found out that if Green didn't go at 6, where Webster went, he would slide. There was no home for Gerald Green, so they were thrilled to learn that he was going to fall to them at 18. They're not worried that he slid. He's 19 years old. He's going to be 20, so they feel like they've got the kind of player they need, kind of like they got last year in terms of younger player, to keep building this franchise. Portland, Atlanta, and Denver have already called in the last couple minutes to try to get this pick, but they're not buying it. They're not selling it.
It's Boston's.
An insane athlete, 19 years old, can really get off his feet. He's explosive, he is long, he is really fluid, and he's got excellent range on his shot, but he can really get up off his feet. At this pick, 19 or 18, this is a great pick at 18. You're getting a guy who in the future can be a star, and it is not often that the 18th pick, you've got a guy that has star potential in him. It may take him a little while because he needs to mature emotionally and on the floor. He's got to get a lot stronger. He's got to improve his skill level, but he can really shoot the basketball. Hits 6 threes in the McDonald's game, gets up about the same level every time on his shot, which is unusual for a great leaper.
Let's go to Stuart Scott standing by with the newest Boston Celtic. They're building a good young nucleus up there.
Thanks a lot, Mike. It's one thing if you're 22 years old and you've had 4 years of college and you're not picked where you think you're going to be picked. You're 19. You've never stepped foot in a college classroom. What was that like, sitting in the green room, waiting when you thought your name would already been called?
It was just, I mean, it kind of felt nerve-wracking. I thought I was going to be picked a little earlier, but, it's okay. It's God's plan, so I was going to go with it. I know I'll make sure when I get to Boston, I'll make sure I do the best I can and play hard.
There are a lot of guys who have contracts that have incentives based on points, based on rebounds. Your agent and your family, they want an incentive in your contract based on education. Why?
Because that's my main thing, especially with my mom. I got to get my education. If I don't, she'll hit me back in my head or something. So that's the one thing I got to get my education.
All right, so you got to get your education range. You won't get those big bucks.
Oh, no, I'll probably die. I won't be here.
Mike Gerald got cut from his high school basketball team, which is pretty good because a guy named Michael Jordan once had that happen to him as well.
Well, he is now a Boston Celtic, as the Celtics, as we mentioned, after last year's draft with 3 first-rounders, have built a good nucleus. Only one player here in New York City still waits. That's Hakeem Warrick, as I'm sure they check the phones and see who is interested. You got Memphis, then Denver, and Phoenix. A couple of teams where Hakeem Warrick would fit in pretty well await. Grizzlies on the clock. We'll see what Jerry West and Mike Fratello do after this. Welcome back to the 2005 NBA Draft. Time for the American Express Draft Track. If you just check it in, point guards go right in a row there with Darren Williams, Chris Paul, Raymond Felton at 3, 4, and 5. Surprises at 7, 9, and 10 with Charlie Villanueva going to Toronto at number 7. The top surprise of that group, Andrew Bynum, the high schooler, to the Lakers at number 10. And touch them all with the Tar Heels. 4 North Carolina players taken in the first 14, including Rashad McCants, the Minnesota selection. We have Memphis on the clock, followed by Denver and Phoenix. So we turn to Stephen A. and Greg. Guys, the Memphis team a little bit in transition as their season ended. Mike Fratello taking over from our colleague QB Brown.
Yeah, they've been struggling a little bit down the stretch. It seemed like there was a lot of dissension on that roster, but I think they're very fortunate in this position that they're going to get, I think, a player who will have a major impact for this roster. A couple guys out there, Hakeem Warrick comes to mind for me as the type of athlete that can replace a Stromile Swift, who they'll probably lose in free agency.
Add Bonzi Wells to that mix, since he may be going as well. And at the end of the day, Greg's absolutely right. There is a lot of dissension. Some of the players weren't getting along too well with Mr. Mike Fratello. So that situation, you just never know what's going to happen. Got to pick the right player.
Can you take Greg's camera, guys? Because, Greg, you better be careful what you say about Memphis, because when you see Greg's camera, Jerry West is looking over your shoulder the whole draft. The NBA logo on JC, Jerry West, the NBA logo, is looking over your shoulder. So you better have a good comment about them. Well, here is the Memphis selection. As we mentioned, Hakeem Warrick, the last player sitting back there in the green room.
With the 19th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Memphis Grizzlies select Hakeem Warrick from Syracuse University.
The last person left in the room always is well received to begin with. And Syracuse players are always well received in New York. This is the largest alumni base for that fine school in upstate New York. Just pointing out that there are a lot of people who say the Q's is in the house in the Garden. This young man played during his Big East days in Madison Square Garden, played very well as Syracuse won the Big East tournament here. And Warrick will be a selection of the Memphis Grizzlies here at number 19 overall.
You know, Mike, people ask, what's his position? Is he a 3? Is he a 4? Who cares? He is a big-time NBA athlete. He is really long. He can really run. He can really bother people defensively. In fact, Jim Boeheim at Syracuse used him to point their press and really caused a lot of turnovers when he did. He is a productive rebounder. When he gets the ball, he can spin and wheel into the lane. He's got terrific footwork, and he can really rise. Had one of the best dunks I saw all year long. This was it against Notre Dame. I mean, that is unbelievable to take off 2 feet that far away from the basket. He doesn't block shots at quite as high a rate as you would want, but he can block a lot of shots. He's not overly skilled, but he has pretty good skills, and he is getting better. I like Hakeem Warrick at this spot, especially when you can get him this late. It feels like it's a little bit of a steal for Memphis.
And, of course, had that signature moment of the national championship game game blocking Michael Lee's shot down in New Orleans when they won the title a couple of years ago. So Hakeem Warrick selected by the Memphis Grizzlies at number 19. Just a moment ago, we saw Gerald Green, the high school player, taken by the Boston Celtics. Via video conference, we head up to Boston and bring in our friend and former colleague, Doc Rivers. Doc, good to visit with you, another high school player. With all the guys who made a good impact, how concerned are you of having really 4 players with a year or no experience in the league on your team at the same time?
I'm not concerned at all. You know, Mike, we're going to win the NCAA title next year, and then in a couple of years later, we'll win the NBA title.
You're bad. You're bad. What did you learn about the high school experience last year that makes you comfortable with Danny Ainge and company selecting Gerald here in the first round?
Well, obviously, you have to have a great support cast around them, not only as the coaches, but the players have to really support. Al Jefferson was terrific last year. Kendrick Perkins the year before. So 2 years in a row now, we've gotten high school guys that have grown in our organization. We understand how to coach these guys now. And so I'm very comfortable with the pick. We were shocked, to be honest, that he was at 18. We really didn't think we would see him at 18, but it was a no-brainer for us once we saw him there.
Doc, give me a big picture franchise feel as the conversations with you and Danny and Wick and the ownership there. You have Gary Payton and Antoine Walker, key starters for you at the end of the playoff run, unrestricted free agents. People keep talking about the possibility of Paul Pierce being moved. Where do you see the next big step with the Celtics?
Well, I can tell you Paul Pierce will not be moved. You know, Paul Pierce was terrific for us last year. If you look at his numbers, and he had his most efficient season in his career last year. And so we just want to keep building around that. We want to become more athletic, which we have with this draft pick. Antoine and Gary, well, you know, July 1st negotiations start. We love what they both did for us, and we're going to try our best to see what we can do to bring them back.
A couple more picks coming up in the second round. Doc, we'll let you get back in. Good seeing you. How's your golf game, by the way, Doc?
It's terrible right now.
Yeah, right.
But it's getting there.
Don't take strokes from him, Boston. Thanks, Doc. Talk to you later.
Thanks.
Doc Rivers, coach of the Boston Celtics. Hakeem Warrick selected by Memphis a moment ago. Standing by now with Stuart Scott. Stu?
Thanks a lot, Mike. Hakeem, you were the last guy in the green room. What would you compare that experience to, being the last guy in that room?
It was just tough, not knowing where I'm going and slipping past all those teams. It was just the longest 2 hours of my life.
When you were in high school, you were not even a top 100 recruit until you went to a basketball camp. You came out of that as a top 30. It was incentive because no one expected that of you. What's your incentive now after waiting so long then?
It's been a story of my life. Always overlooked, always too small, too skinny, don't have a position. So the only thing I can do is just go out there and play and continue to work hard.
All right, Julius Hodge played at North Carolina State. Syracuse, Mike, was recruiting Julius Hodge. When Julius went to State, Jim Boeheim then picked up this guy. Hakeem says, where would I be without Julius Hodge?
That's right. It was at a Nike camp where Mike Hopkins, Troy Weaver, the assistant coaches of Jim Boeheim, saw Hakeem, and they were very upfront with him that Julius Hodge, a New Yorker who we'll see maybe selected back into this first round, early second round, was out there. They were thinking about the scholarship for Hodge. He went to North Carolina State. They went to Warwick. The rest is history, and now Hakeem Warrick is a Memphis Grizzly. Hakeem Warrick is a 4-year senior that was selected, so that is 4 of the first 19 as 4-year seniors taken in the draft. We have 10 underclassmen so far, 3 high school players, and we mentioned, depending on how you're counting, either 2 or 3 internationals. Andrew Bogut played college here in the U.S., so if you count him under that column, it's hard to count him as an international. He's international born, but not coming from overseas to play in the U.S. Frank Fucillo, we mentioned earlier, this is kind of crossing the border into the international player territory. Why here in the 20s do you look for some more overseas players to come across?
Yeah, Mike, almost 50% of the first-round picks in the last 7 years of the international players have been selected between 20 and 30. So I look for 3 or 4 guys to go here at the end of the first round, primarily because teams like Denver, San Antonio, Detroit, particularly Utah, really do a good job of drafting international players. Keep in mind, Karolinko, Christic from the Nets, Ilgauskas from the Cavaliers, Tony Parker, all guys who've gone between 20 and 29 over the last 7 years.
So you also point to the experience that these teams have of a network of guys who tell you overseas there's somebody to come look at and do it on a regular basis.
You're right. And the other thing about these international guys, they're usually going to playoff teams where they only have to fill a role, and that's important also.
We saw that with Tony Parker and Ginobili over the last couple of years. Thank you, Fran. So Fran Fraschilla will be filling us in on those players as we go through here. So the Denver Nuggets, when George Karl came in, they really turned it around. Here's their pick.
With the 20th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Denver Nuggets select Julius Hodge from North Carolina State University.
Well, it's a small world moment of the 2005 draft. We just told you the story of Julius Hodge and Hakeem Warwick, how Hakeem Warwick ends up at Syracuse, how different things may have been if Julius Hodge goes there. State goes to NC State, has a 4-year productive career, and Jay, he's picked one behind Hakeem Warwick.
You know, you hit it on the head there, Mike. He's been productive. Julius Hodge, he is long, he is versatile, he is a good athlete, he can put the ball on the floor, he can actually play some point guard for you. I really like this pick for Denver because I think Hodge, when he plays with a swagger, is among the best players in the country. He really competes, and he's multi-skilled. He's an outstanding passer. I think he's a much better shooter than he's shown. He's been monkeying around with his shot over the last couple of years, went from being a pretty good shooter to really struggling with his shot last year. I think if he'll listen to his coaching staff and get back to just shooting the ball instead of trying to refine it so much, I think you can see him be a much more consistent shooter. He is a competitor and a versatile one that can play multiple positions.
You know, the guy that comes to mind for me, Jay, is Josh Howard from a couple of years ago with ACC Player of the Year. This guy has that kind of versatility and talent. I think he has an immediate impact in a position of need for the Denver Nuggets, that shooting guard position.
I like this pick. When you talk about that, DeMar Johnson was playing shooting guard for them at the end of the last year. Rashawn Leonard tore his Achilles the very first game of the season last year.
Well, it's amazing. The few times I've gotten to see Julius Hodges in the ACC tournament, and he's always shown up. And Jay said it best. He is a competitor. He is coming to fight. He's not backing down. There were times he was carrying North Carolina State. This guy has a lot of potential, and he's on the right team with a very, very good coach, I might add.
All right. We'll hear from Julius in a second. First, another video conference. I want to take you down to Memphis and visit with Jerry West. They made the Hakeem Warwick selection. Jerry, were you surprised that Hakeem Warwick was sitting there when you got to 19?
Well, yes, we were. We thought that he would be taken up higher in the draft. An awful lot of people that we look at, we really don't consider they're going to be there where we're going to draft, and we didn't think he was going to be there. But he's been an awfully good player at Princeton, a great kid. Frankly, we need some help up there. He's very athletic, and he can really run. So we're hopeful that he'll give us some help this year, as he has been a 4-year player.
Jerry, when you look at your roster with Stromile Swift and Earl Watson and Bonzi Wells, it looks like there are going to be changes. What is the most significant offseason issue for your team?
Well, obviously, we would like to do something to try to shore up our rebounding. We just don't rebound the ball very well. We're the worst rebounding team in professional basketball, and we'd like to be a more active team offensively. And Hakeem, he averaged, I believe, about 10 rebounds a game. We're hopeful he'll give us some help there, along with his great athletic ability.
Along with when you brought in Hubie Brown, you've done wonderful things. You gave the Memphis franchise some footing. How much longer do you want to do this?
I really don't know. As I say, I never worry about things like that because I think everyone in these jobs, we don't control what we want to do. The owners tell us if they want us to work more. But as I say, I signed a 4-year contract. This is my last year down here. I'm not sure what my future is going to be because I don't know if I would have a contract extension or not. But as I say, we've had some fun down here. We think we've improved our team, but just being in the playoff is not good enough, I don't think.
And that's what happened with Memphis the last couple of years. Jerry, great visiting with you. We look forward to talking to you in the offseason.
Thank you.
The logo, Jerry West of the Memphis Grizzlies. Michael Heisley, the owner down there, is very fond of Jerry West. We're the majority owner. We know that. So it sounds like, if I had to kind of read between the lines, if he wanted to keep going, he can keep going. Let's go over to Stu now. Is that correct? We're standing by with Julius Hodge. Is that where we want to go? Okay, go ahead, guys.
Mike Julius Hodge from right here in New York, 151st Street, 7th Ave, up in Harlem.
Yeah.
Back in this building in Madison Square Garden, the first time you ever came here was to a Knicks-Lakers game when you were 4 or 5 years old. What happened there that changed your life?
I was at that game, and the ball went out of bounds, and I happened to get some good seats. I don't know how, don't ask, but I was there with my brother, my mom, and my dad, and Magic kind of just glazed into the crowd, and I was smiling. My mom remembered telling me, and he winked his eye at me, and I've been a Magic fan since. I love the guy.
You were a Magic fan then, even though you'd been a Knicks fan your whole life. You mentioned growing up with your brother. You guys used to go over to Jackie Robinson Park in Harlem and ball all day long. What did that teach you?
My brother definitely taught me toughness. He would throw me up against a steel fence, punch me in my ribs, have me crying in the rain, and it all paid off. I love the guy for it. I love you, Mom. I'll make y'all proud. Thank you, Denver.
That's just New York in the house, Mike. This guy used to go out and play basketball in snowstorms. That's how much he loves the game.
That's right. Thank you. Harlem on the rise.
That's neat stuff. See his mom in tears there. And you talk about celebrating and being joyous. It's only 6 miles away where he used to play basketball up 7th Avenue. A neat story to see the family here. Before the next pick, number 21, 38-30 time, a SportsCenter update. We will see you then. As we continue with the draft, we now come to the Phoenix Suns, the great turnaround, the third best turnaround in league history this year. Back to the commissioner.
With the 21st pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Phoenix Suns select Nate Robinson from the University of Washington. Nate is not here.
Now that could be fun, because Phoenix, Fred Carter's doing it on ESPN Radio. And to steal Freddie's line, beep, beep, here it comes. Nate Robinson's got some of that in his game.
Well, Nate Robinson will not fail at this level. He may be only 5'7", but he's going to play 10-plus years in this league. He is really explosive, really quick, can get out in transition, and he plays up-tempo. My measure for a small guard is, do you disrupt the game? And Nate Robinson disrupts the game. He changes the game when he's out there. An absolute jet on the floor with incredible speed in transition. Nate Robinson is an absolute winner.
Well, the one thing you heard coming into this draft is that the Phoenix Suns were looking to move that pick. Turns out they did a wise thing, because this little guy can play some basketball. Make no mistake about it. When you look at their up-tempo, the way they like to attack and keep pushing the ball, he's the perfect guy for that system.
You know what? He's a little bit further along in his career than, say, Earl Boykins was at this stage. I think this guy's going to have an impact right away. And also, it's going to take a little pressure off of Steve Nash. I think his minutes will come down just a little bit with this guy coming on the roster.
They have Leandro Barbosa from Brazil taken a couple of years ago. Not sure if he's a 1 or a 2 or a combo guard, somewhere in between. But if you're 5'9", you're going to play in the NFL, you have to have toughness. His toughness comes from football. He actually came to Washington on a football scholarship and then worked on basketball at the end. He had several interceptions in that freshman year when he played football. His father, the most valuable player of the Orange Bowl. So there is a lot of football in his background. As for more on the Phoenix Suns, let's bring Rick Bucher back in. Rick?
Well, don't expect Nate Robinson to be in a Phoenix Suns uniform. They were telling people that this pick does not belong to them, and there have been several sources who have said this is going to be part of the deal that finally sends Quentin Richardson to the New York Knicks for Kurt Thomas.
Oh, all the fun we had with Nate Robinson in that system. You could have him here in New York. Stephen, your finger on the pulse. This deal has been talked about for a while, and there have been some questions about Quentin Richardson in this deal.
Oh, I'm loving this. I'm loving this. What you're doing is, now Nate Robinson is in New York City. You've got a point guard that can come off the bench and play some defense and really pressure the basketball. He's physical. He's tough. He's going to get in you. He's going to make sure he pressurizes you and gets to a point where it makes it very, very difficult for you to bring the ball up the floor, which is going to make life easier for somebody like Stephon Marbury along with those other guys. This is a good move.
Again, this is a proposed trade. This is not a officially done deal. That's what everybody's hearing. Just want to point that out.
Well, I think, too, he's a tempo changer. If Nate Robinson is going to end up with the New York Knicks, and that's something they've never really had at that backup point guard position. And he also has the ability to score the basketball if that's where this team goes. The one thing about New York, though, we don't know. We still don't know what direction and philosophy they've really incorporated with this franchise yet. We don't know what they're going to be. We don't know if they know what they're going to be.
We have Denver on the clock, followed by Sacramento and Houston. Get towards the back end of round one, then all of round two with just a couple of minutes between picks. 2005 NBA draft. The New York fans were waiting for their pick at 30, and all of a sudden Rick Bucher says one word, and they all come to life like they had a triple shot from Starbucks.
It came to life where they said pressurize. Pressurize.
Oh, no, what I lost my train of thought, man.
And we continue with the 2005 NBA draft, right back to the Denver Nuggets at pick 22, their second first-round selection of the last three.
With the 22nd pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Denver Nuggets select Jarrett Jack from Georgia Tech.
Jarrett Jack, another player who has made his own way here. Dick Vitale, go ahead, Dick.
I'll tell you, tenacity, this guy's a winner. He kept getting better and better every year. You look at his numbers, field goal percentage, free throw percentage, got better and better, his points per game, always made the big play. Paul Ewing loved him. He was a catalyst. Unfortunately for him, he had to play in the shadows of the names of the national guys like Paul, and certainly when you think about Felton. But this kid can play, and Denver has made two great choices with Hodge and Jack. They have really helped their perimeter game big time.
Another ACC player, Dick Vitale, joining us from Florida. That is 7 of the first 22 players taken in this draft from the ACC.
You know, he's long-armed, Mike. He's big and strong. He can really get into you and guard you in a physical manner. He's a good handler. He does play at different speeds, and he can make open shots, and he attacks the rim pretty well. I'm not sure that he is a great ball handler because he does turn the ball over at too high of a rate. He needs to really tighten that up, but at a 6'7.5" wingspan, he is long enough to really bother people, and I like his ability to back folks down. I mean, he's a strong point guard that can play.
You know, it also reemphasized what Dick Vitale said. How about the Denver Nuggets with these two selections? Because these are guys that are going to go to a playoff team and have an opportunity to make an immediate impact. And when you look at Jarrett Jack, we've never talked about it, but I think he has the versatility to play some shooting guard as well because of his size and ability to defend two positions. Again, that versatility is so key at the NBA level. He gives that to the Denver Nuggets.
His freshman roommate at Georgia Tech was Chris Bosh, so he had somebody to tell him all about the league. He went to Mount Zion Academy as he prepped, same place Tracy McGrady went. And he's got 400 phone numbers in his cell phone, from a 12-year-old phenom in D.C. to LeBron James. So all 400, if he has your number, you have his. So call him, fill up his cell phone, and congratulate Jarrett Jack, taken by the Denver Nuggets. Sacramento to follow, the teams that went deep in the playoff, deep in the first round. We'll see their selections as we continue. Hey, we're back here in New York at the 2005 draft. Just some overview, guys, as we've gotten to the point now, 23 Sacramento on the clock.
I think the most impressive thing, if you look at this draft from 13 until the last pick, I think that's where we've seen probably the most impact, because these guys are going to go to situations where they're going to be on decent teams and also have an opportunity to go in and help improve those rosters much more so than the top 10.
Especially Indiana and Boston, in my mind. They made some big-time picks. They've got guys that could be instant and major contributors to their squad.
Yeah, teams drafting out of need really helped the teams later in the round. Roy Williams just walked by, showed us all his hats. He can open up his own lid store.
That's right. Exactly. All 4 of the players from Carolina taken. Sacramento, a team that has been at the top of the West, one of the elite teams over the last, really 4 years, now in a bit of a rebuilding mode. Obviously, they moved Chris Webber during the season. They still won 50 games, knocked out in the first round by the Seattle Sonics. Let's see where they go with pick 23 here in the first round. The commissioner will have the selection.
With the 23rd pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Sacramento Kings select Francisco Garcia from the Dominican Republic and the University of Louisville.
Another New York story here. Jay, first Garcia, let's break him down.
A little bit surprised that Garcia lasted this long. He is a really hungry basketball player. He's an outstanding long-range shooter. He's got a really good handle. Tends to go right, but can go left. Needs to work on a little bit more. He's got a really good feel and an outstanding passer of the basketball. In transition, in half-court sets, he can see over. He's very good defensively, not necessarily on the ball, but as a roving defender. He can block shots. He gets steals. He gets gets deflections. He doesn't really have a position, but he can bring the ball up. I think he can play 2. I think he can even play a little bit of 3 at 6'7" and long with a 6'10" wingspan. But what he really can do is shoot the ball from long range. Reminds you a little bit of a poor man's Reggie Miller with his ability to shoot the basketball.
Well, but I think he's a little bit better with the basketball than, say, Reggie Miller was. And I think also we talk about that same thing continuing, because when you're Sacramento, the chance that you're going to lose Cuttino Mobley, plus you bring in some size and athleticism to that shooting guard position, something they're lacking right now.
23 picks, guys, 9 guards. You see the point guards at the top, 3, 4, 5, then Webster, the high schooler, and Rashad McCants. Then in the back end, the last 4, including Garcia. Taken here by the Sacramento Kings when you look back through the last 3 consecutive picks. 1 point on Francisco Garcia before we bring in Dick Vitale. I mentioned a New York story from the South Bronx. If you followed college basketball, you remember his freshman year when his brother Hector was murdered at the Grand Concourse up in the South Bronx, not very far from here, and then he played emotionally the next night against Seton Hall, put up a great performance dedicated to his brother. So important for Garcia with these New York roots and the memory of his brother that he continued to achieve under Rick Pitino at Louisville, and their family tonight can celebrate a New York moment as he was selected here in the first round of the draft by Sacramento. Dick Vitale for more on Francisco Garcia.
Well, I'll tell you this, Mike. They picked a winner. They picked a kid that's multi-dimensional, very versatile. He can play 3 positions on the floor. He'll make open shots. He shoots 85% from the free throw line, and he really learned from a master in Rick Pitino. He really played in a system that's conducive to the NBA, and I think Sacramento, which was one of Rick Pitino's favorite teams, certainly made a great choice, because this kid will be a solid player for a number of years. I am shocked that he has slipped as far as he did in the draft, because he really understands how to play basketball and what heart and what courage he has. He is a tough competitor.
Dick, don't you think that playing for Rick, able to move the ball, smart player, playing the motion offense with Sacramento, Pete Carrill's still a great part of that staff, that would be a good place for Garcia because of those skills?
Oh, I agree with you, Mike. I think there's no doubt he fits the system perfectly. And I think too many teams don't make choices where they can fit players in to their style of play.
That's part of the point everybody was making before. The teams that are selecting without coaches makes it a little bit difficult. So Francisco Garcia, pick 23 to the Sacramento Kings, and now we go to the Houston Rockets as they continue to try to build around Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady. Let's check the Rocket selection here at number 24 in the first round.
With the 24th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Houston Rockets select Luther Head from the University of Illinois.
So earlier, Darren Williams of the Fighting Illini going to Utah, and now Luther Head. How about this? When we look back at the 2005 championship night, we will remember that 6 of the top 24 players in that next draft, a quarter of the top 24 were on the floor on championship night.
Well, not only is Luther Head a winner, I count him as a point guard. At 6'3", he's got a 6'5" wingspan. He has a 39-inch vertical leap, so he's an outstanding athlete. He's got a great motor. He can run all day coming off screens. He's a terrific mid-range jump shooter that can get his own shot off the dribble. But what I really like about him is he can play the point as well as the off-guard position. He's a little bit small for a 2, but he's solid defensively, and he is solid on the offensive end. He's a good passer and a very good defender. I really like the way he can run all day. Luther Head, pretty solid pick. I'll tell you what, they're celebrating in Seattle as well, because they can get Martinez Andrikavicius next at 25. That's a big pick for them.
Well, the other thing about Luther Head, though, is we talk about system again. Remember, he's got to go play with 2 superstars. So the game's going to be a little bit easier for him. He's going to have the ability to knock down open shots and defend that perimeter and keep people out of the paint. That'll help keep Yao Ming out of foul trouble and take a lot of pressure off Tracy McGrady. If he can fill that void, that only bodes well for the Rockets.
When we talk about Illinois and their great guards, we talk about Dee Brown. Of course, we've mentioned already Williams and Head. Dee Brown injuring his foot at the Chicago pre-draft camp early on, so he's going back to Illinois, and that will certainly help Illinois' fortunes for next year. Seattle, as Jay mentioned, on the clock. You keep working down towards the teams that made the most hay in this season. Detroit, San Antonio, Miami still await. First round of the draft continues with Ray Allen's team next. With the Seattle Sonics on the clock, let's continue our 2005 draft coverage. 6 very entertaining games with the eventual world champion San Antonio Spurs, but the issue obviously for this Seattle team that made great strides, well, there are many. One, Nate McMillan, their head coach, can they keep him? Can they keep Ray Allen, unrestricted free agent? You have Jerome James, who came really out of nowhere to have a phenomenal playoff, unrestricted free agent. Reggie Evans, dirty work guy, power forward, restricted free agent. A lot of decisions have to be made in Seattle, let alone pick 25 here.
Well, they already made one by re-signing GM Rick Sumner, a 3-year deal. They've got a 4-year, approximately $18 million offer on the table for Nate McMillan. Hopefully he will sign it, because you better not lose Nate McMillan, and you certainly better not lose Ray Allen, because if you do, it ain't going to really matter that much who you draft right now.
Well, again,
can't lose them.
You talk about that uncertainty with this basketball team, because they've never been known as one that wants to spend money in terms of trying to win, and that has to be a concern for Nate McMillan and Ray Allen moving forward, because you still want the chance to win, period. You don't want necessarily just to get paid. You want to have a chance to win that championship.
Commissioner's coming up from over your shoulder, so here's the Sonics pick.
With the 25th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Seattle Sonics select Johan Petro from France.
International player, and the big man is Petro, who many thought would be in the draft last year. Actually had a quote-unquote guarantee during the draft last year. Chose not to come in. Fran Fraschilla covering the international players. Tell us about Petro from France.
I've gotten a chance to see this guy, Mike, and this is insurance against losing Jerome James. He's 7 foot. He's 19 years old. If he were a college freshman, he would have been a very, very good player. This is a guy that's athletic, strong, has an NBA body at 7 feet, about 240. Seattle can also elect to keep him overseas to get him some more seasoning, but I like this pick at 25. And remember, last year they took the high school center, Robert Swift from Bakersfield, California. So hopefully Rick Sund is hoping that one of these two young big guys can develop into a postman of the future.
Now, Swift didn't play much last year. That doesn't necessarily mean Seattle thinks he's not going to be decent down the line.
That's right. I talked to Jack Sikma a few weeks ago. They are very high on Robert Swift, and with Jack Sikma working with Johan Petro, they got maybe one of these guys can develop into an NBA center, especially if Jerome James leaves.
Thank you, Fran. There is Petro, like the many. So the NBA invites approximately 16 people here, and many just come in on their own. And Petro, one of those, here for his draft night. He was in the same developmental league, by the way, as Michael Petrus, who made an impact with Golden State, Boris Diaw as well. So a couple of more French players coming in. Obviously, Tony Parker gets a lot of the headlines. Go back to Rick Bucher, I believe. We have Andy Katz, I beg your pardon. We have a trade to talk about that's being talked about, not official yet. Andy?
That's right, Mike. There's a proposed trade between Denver and Portland, where Denver would send Jared Jack, who they picked at 22, to Portland for Portland's 27th pick here in the first round and the 35th pick in the second round. Now, Portland talked to Seattle about making a trade with the pick that you just saw by the Sonics, but the Sonics wanted to wait to make sure that Petro would be there for him. If Petro was above Seattle, then they would have done the trade with Portland. Right now, it's a proposed trade. It would be announced after the 35th pick by Portland.
All right, Andy, so we'll keep an eye on what happens here in about 10 picks. Meantime, we're at 26, and the Eastern Conference champion Detroit Pistons are on the clock. The Pistons, who have a couple of major issues to deal with, including Larry Brown, their head coach. Let's go back to Larry for a second, because you spoke with him yesterday, as many people wonder the long-awaited visit to the Mayo Clinic and how Larry's health will be and who will coach the team next year.
Oh, just reminding everybody of the obvious. Larry Brown goes to the Mayo Clinic tomorrow morning. He will be there until Friday morning before heading to the Hamptons, his home, his summer home in the Hamptons. And at that time, he'll await a decision from the doctors as to whether or not he can coach again. If he can coach again, his preference would be to remain with the Detroit Pistons. Obviously, Joe Dumars and owner Bill Davidson would have to make that decision. Joe Dumars has said to me vehemently on several occasions that he would love to keep Larry Brown as his head coach, but obviously some people are speculating that owner Bill Davidson may feel differently. In the event that Larry Brown ends up departing Detroit, then you're possibly talking about the New York Knicks remaining in the equation.
We will have the Pistons pick when we come back here from New York. Detroit on the clock. See what they get at pick 26. With Portland, San Antonio, Miami, and the Knicks waiting to wrap up the first round.
What's up? What's up?
What's up is the American Express Draft Track. Greg Anthony, the ACC has been very popular in this draft. 7 of the top 22 players selected from the Atlantic Coast Conference. Andrew Bogut, a couple of hours ago, taken number 1 for his college player selected at the top spot since Kenyon Martin out of Cincinnati. And we've seen here in the middle of the first round, from Joey Graham to Danny Granger to Akeem Ward, seniors taken in the middle. Detroit is on the clock at 26. Jay, the best available.
Well, Martinez Andrikavicius, he's young. He's 7'3" with a 6'11" wingspan. He's a face-up four-man. I think he could be a steal late in this first round. Salim Stoudemire, the best shooter in the draft. Roko Jukic, also a foreign point guard, long. He can handle the ball. He'd be a good pick as well.
Detroit already has a couple of international players waiting to get playing time in Darko Milicic and Carlos Delfino. You would think they would probably go with a college player with some experience that they can fit in. They need some shooting help, some perimeter help. Even though their guards are very good, they play a lot of minutes. Let's see the Pistons selection. Back up to David Stern.
With the 26th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Detroit Pistons select Jason Maxiell from the University of Cincinnati.
Wow.
Surprised, I guess.
I'm really surprised. Jason Maxiell is really only about 6'5", although he's got a wingspan of a 7'3" guy. He's a big-time shot blocker. He's an outstanding rebounder, and he's a really hard worker. But he's strictly a back-to-the-basket player, and really small for a power forward, in my judgment. But he is a hard worker. He really goes after it, and he goes after it to block every shot. He's got a turnaround jumper that's difficult to block, but he's strictly a low-post player. I had him late in the first round, maybe even into the second round, so it's a little bit of a surprise to go here. But he is a solid player. I just think he's awfully small for a power forward.
Here's my thing. I would love to see them get a shooter because Lord knows they needed that. But at the same time, when you're talking about his toughness and what have you, to me, this is an indictment against the frontline players they already have on their roster because you didn't have anybody looking to post anybody, which is probably one of the reasons why they lost in the NBA Finals. You had nobody playing with their back to the basket in the paint is what I'm trying to say.
Well, for me, I look at it totally different. To me, this is a guy that fills a void in terms of just bringing some toughness to a roster that doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. Why, if you're not going to get that type of player that you need in terms of a swing player, perimeter player this late in the draft, why not go get somebody with some toughness and some athleticism who can come in and spot you defensively, maybe be a stopper against certain teams. 82 games, a long season. That's why he probably makes a lot of sense for the Pistons.
Well, Jay used a lot of the Larry Brown buzzwords there in your description of Maxiell. They had a guy who did some of those things in Corliss Williamson when they won the championship and gave him some offense in that second unit. That was not there this year, although Larry didn't love Corliss Williamson's fit in the system. Be interesting to see. Jason Maxiell, the first Cincinnati player taken since Steve Logan 3 years ago, was drafted. The Portland Trailblazers come up next at 27. Earlier, they made a draft move, sliding up in this draft to take Martell Webster at number 6 overall. Andy Katz told us that this could end up being a trade with Denver. Phoenix has been involved in this first round. We will talk more about the Suns and the other teams out in the West when we come back.
Good day, everybody. Howdy, y'all. I'm Charlie Villanueva. I'm Julius Hodge. You're watching the draft? NBA Draft. NBA Draft on ESPN.
Portland, San Antonio, Miami to come. Here's the commissioner with Portland's pick.
With the 27th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Portland Trailblazers select Linas Kleiza from Lithuania.
Jay, let's break down this young man who plays collegiate ball at Missouri.
Yeah, he's from Lithuania. He went to Missouri. Give the Tigers a little bit of a break. Linas Kleiza was undervalued, I thought, in this draft. He really wants to be a pro. He's big and strong, and he can really knock down shots. He plays hard. He's a good athlete with good feet, and he can knock down open shots facing up. He did not shoot a very good percentage from the field in college, only 40% last year, but he had a lot of defensive attention. In workouts, he was really knocking shots down. He's not really a transition athlete. He's not always been coachable, but I think he's going to be a really good NBA player.
couple of years of college experience at Missouri. Kareem Rush, Keon Dooling, other first-round selections out of Missouri in the last 12 years. And now Kleza becomes a Trailblazer college selection. I mean, it's a shock. A first-rounder that went to college for Portland. It hasn't happened in 3 years. The world champions for 2 of the last 3 years, 3 of the last 7 years. The San Antonio Spurs. Just a couple of days ago, they had the Fiesta down the Riverwalk. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Riverwalk. It's a real nice place.
It was nice. I enjoyed my time there. And I enjoyed the great people of San Antonio.
And they enjoyed you as well. We'll see what the champs do at 28. Robert Horry hit the big shot. The young players, the international players contributing to this team, they've done so well in this 28 spot. They show up here again when you come back. Welcome back to the draft. Sometimes you can make numbers work for you. Sometimes they just hit you in the face. San Antonio's on the clock. 28th pick, first round. Look what they've done in the 28th spot. Beno Udrih on their roster. Played some, didn't play as much as the finals went on. They traded Leandro Barbosa, taking this 28th spot. Go back down to Tony Parker in 2001 they took in this 28th spot. So this is a spot where the Spurs have used their international knowledge, their ability to go find players and work them into their system. In Barbosa's case, they made a trade and have been very successful. And here they are picking 28th again. And Fran Fraschilla, there's a certain reason that San Antonio has an understanding for what they do and do well at the bottom of the first round.
Well, you're right, Mike. It starts with General Manager R.C. Buford and his scouting staff. They do a wonderful job of getting over to Europe and scouting these guys. There's a guy, Luis Scola, that was on that list who's Argentinian, who's 6'8", rugged, and a lot of people think he will be on that team next year to give them another live body. A guy I like right here is Mikel Gelabal from France. He's 6'7", plays at Real Madrid in Spain, and he could be the guy that replaces Bruce Bowen, a no-mistake player. Just a hunch, but he would be a nice addition right here.
Bruce Bowen has worked himself into one of the best defensive players, best on-the-ball defender in the league. Stephen and Greg, we always talk about this, and since we spent most of the last month around the Spurs, it's worth repeating. There's a reason these international players can come in and grow. They had David Robinson earlier, and now Tim Duncan as the franchise guys to build around and grow with.
There's no doubt about it, and that gives you a luxury when you're a front office to know that you have that type of stability and also the winning tradition to bring guys in and allow them to develop at their own pace. That's the reason why Manu Ginobili has really been able to emerge as a superstar, because he didn't have to be put into a situation where he would fail. They allowed him to take his time, and that's why, again, they're going to have an opportunity to bring a guy in who can maybe not contribute right away, but eventually have an impact.
Well, let's just call it what it is. They're a first-class organization. It's really that simple. I mean, Buford, those guys have a game plan. We've talked about this on numerous occasions, Greg. They just have a game plan. They know what they want to do next year. They know what they want to do 2 years from now. They've got guys locked up for years. It is very, very possible that over the next 5 years, the San Antonio Spurs can capture 2 or 3 more championships. It's just that simple.
They've won 3 in the last 7, and the 3 most essential parts that you talk about, Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan, are locked up. Commissioner coming out of the side door here for the 28th pick, a pick where the Spurs have had success before, and they'll be followed by Miami and the Knicks to wrap up the first round.
With the 28th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Jan Maimi from France.
Jan is in the house as well. He is a member of the 2004 French junior national team. And now it's 3 years in a row they've taken an international player, Fran Fraschilla, in the first round.
Well, I had the country right, France. This guy is a volleyball player. He's only played basketball for 4 years, Mike, and you're right. Last summer in Zaragoza, Spain, he came out of nowhere. He is a defensive-minded rebounder. You got to think of this 20-year-old as a Dennis Rodman without the tattoos and the earrings. He's a reach right here, but he is a relentless rebounder and a young player. He'd be a college sophomore. Not a lot of experience, but certainly a guy that San Antonio, as we talked about, does a great job of scouting the international guys. So this is a pick for the future.
Jay?
And Mike, Gonzaga was recruiting this guy to replace Ronny Turiaf. Turns out he goes way ahead of Ronny Turiaf in the draft. And he's very raw. They only averaged 5 points per game for his senior team this last year. So a lot of questions about him, but he's got all the tools to be good.
And Pop can go take him to play volleyball. He's a volleyball player, get the guys out for a nice big volleyball game. So that's the selection for San Antonio. 2 left, Miami and the Knicks, in a pick acquired via trade from San Antonio and Phoenix. Then that'll wrap up the first round of the draft for the entire second round, with picks coming every 2 minutes there. We'll come to pick 29 and the Miami Heat on the clock. We're going to go to Seattle now via video conference and bring in the head coach of the Seattle Sonics, Nate McMillan. Nate, you take the big man from France. Is there any thought of keeping him over there in the short term?
No, we are really looking to bring him on board this year. We want to get him his summer league. First, I would like to tip my hat. If I had a hat, I would tip it to our scouts. These guys have been right on track the last few years as far as our draft picks. This is the guy we wanted this year. We feel that in the next 2-3 years, with the front line of Nick Collison, Petro, and Robert Swift, the future is really good for Seattle.
So Petro is a guy you can play with Swift, or are you talking about those 3 as a combo at your 4-5?
We think he can play with Swift. He certainly will play this summer with Robert, and we could take a look at that in a couple weeks.
It's the 28th of June. I guess that means you have the 2 more days under contract. Is there any progress with the Sonics and your coaching situation?
You know what? This is all about Petro tonight, so we'll enjoy the draft pick of Petro tonight.
Under what circumstances will you be in Seattle come July 30th?
Mike, you're not listening. You're not listening.
You're not listening to me, Nate.
You're not listening. I won't comment on that. Right now I'm the head coach of the Seattle Supersonics. I've been working hard with the scouts and everyone else to bring in a young player that we feel can help this organization. And we feel tonight we got that young player in Petro. And I had an opportunity to work with him just a few days ago. I'm looking forward to working with him when he comes to Seattle Summer League.
You drive a hard bargain, you know that? I'll get you back. Thanks, Nate. Have a good summer.
Okay, Mike.
We'll talk to you. We'll find you in Seattle in a couple of weeks. Nate McMillan, the coach of the Seattle Sonics, joining us. One thing he wants to do, he's a lifer as a Sonic, and I think if he was given his druthers, he'd rather stay in Seattle. The Miami Heat are next, and we will see what Pat Riley and company do with pick 29, then the Knicks, and then we wrap up round 1 of the draft. Back to see what Shaq and Dwayne will get as company. Back to the draft as we continue here in New York, this 2005 draft, and the Miami Heat set to wrap up this first round, then the New York Knicks. Let's see if there'll be some veteran help from a college standpoint for Shaq and Dwayne Wade.
With the 29th pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Miami Heat select Wayne Simeon from the University of Kansas.
We'll bring in Dick Vitale from Florida. Dick, here's a player who has a lot of promise, but a lot of injuries that derailed what would have been a more exciting future as a basketball player.
I'll tell you one thing. What a great choice for the people down in Miami. They get a character guy. He'll be really a solid contributor off the bench on that baseline. He'll score. He's got great touch. He's got great feel for the game. Makes free throws. And I can't say enough about his heart and his ability to want to win. He is a perfect choice right there that late in the draft. Again, Mr. Riley and the Jerry West of the world and the Larry Birds, they are like steps ahead, man. They have such understanding. This kid is a winner.
We talk about a character guy, Dick. Wayne Simeon points to July 12th of 2003 as the day that his life changed, because his identity changed. As he was quoted, he went from a basketball player to a man of God. Obviously had to search for some, resolution to a higher being with all the injuries that he suffered. Every time, Jay, it seemed like he was on the path to success. It was another injury that set him back a little bit.
Yeah, and that really was probably what let him drop down to 29 was his level of durability. People questioning on whether he could stay healthy through an NBA season, but he's longer than he gets credit for. He's got a 7-foot reach. He's a big-time rebounder, and he's big and broad, and he won't take any guff off anybody. He'll knock you right off the ball.
You know, the other advantage from a Miami Heat standpoint, again, remember, they talk about his durability. Well, he's going to go to a team with an established front line, so he does not have to come out and play 40 minutes, but he's also a guy with high skill, something that they don't necessarily have a lot of. Great basketball IQ and a heart, as Dick Vitale talked about. I think it's a great selection. It's like getting a mid-first round pick at the end of the first round.
I think it's a great selection, and keep in mind that the health of Alonzo Mourning is always precarious. You never know from year to year how he's going to be. So solidifying your front line even more, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And Shaq isn't getting any younger either. He's the most dominant force in the game, but he's not getting any younger. Absolutely.
Are you getting any younger?
Excuse me?
Are you getting any younger?
No, but I don't have to.
I know.
I don't have to play.
The Knicks' final pick of the first round on the clock. Earlier, the Knicks took Channing Frye. They at least met with the approval of Spike Lee, who was here in the audience. We'll see what the Knicks do here at the back end of the first round as we continue from New York City right after this. All right, the Knicks fans are being heard here in the Garden. They've had a very active night. Earlier, Channing Frye was taken at 8. Conversation of a potential trade at the 21 spot when Phoenix took Nate Robinson. Spike Lee is still here and waiting along with us to see the final pick in the first round. Back up to Commissioner David Stern.
With the 30th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the New York Knicks select David Lee from the University of Florida.
Now, the Knicks... Oh, hang on.
The second round of the 2005 NBA Draft will be conducted by Russ Granick, the Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer of the NBA. Thank you very much.
Good night, Commissioner. Good night. On that note, leaving the happy faithful, David Stern turns it over to Russ Granick. Jay, the fans are booing. They don't understand. This guy in Chicago, if people could have been to watch him, they'd see a really hard worker who moved his way up this draft.
No, he is a hard worker. He's ambidextrous. He's very bouncy and athletic. He's got great lateral quickness. He can use his right or his left around the basket. Billy Donovan used him to point the press. He can really move. He gets off his feet, and he's a solid athlete, solid rebounder. Everything about him really solid. His offensive game, not great. He can really improve in that area. He's got a little bit of a funky release on his shot, but he is very active, and that's what I think at the end of the first round you can use is activity. I might have taken Brandon Bass of LSU ahead of him, but it's not a bad pick. There's nothing wrong with David Lee at 30.
He may have made the biggest impact of guys going to Chicago and moving up into the first round. So David Lee selected there, and time for us as we get the second round started for SportsCenter 30 at 30 update. Remember, SportsCenter full edition comes up right after we're done, but here's the 30 at 30 update now.
Marlins pitcher Dontrelle Willis looking for his major league leading 13th win, taking on the Braves. Marcus Giles gets the best of the D train. Lucky 13 will have to wait. Braves are rolling, but in a rain delay. Yankees and Baltimore Orioles looking to stop a 6-game skid. Mission accomplished. Brian Roberts goes deep off of Mike Stanton in the 10th inning. Walk-off homer, 5-4 final. Much more on SportsCenter after the NBA Draft.
Linda, thank you. And, of course, the George Steinbrenner Tampa get-together will be talked about as well. So the second round will start, and as the commissioner said, Russ Granick will be coming up to handle those. And here is the tote board thus far for the first round. 9 college seniors taken. We had, I think, 8 in the final 15 selections of the draft in the first round. 14 underclassmen, 3 players right out of high school, and Andy Katz talked about potentially 5, and 4 international players were selected. And again, that's the definition of international for that purpose being players who were not in the U.S. and taken from a high school or college in the U.S., guys who truly newly come from overseas. For these purposes, that's the definition of international. Now we get to the second round, and the picks will start with the Atlanta Hawks. But the first rounders now have teams. They're all dialed up, so why not? Some pictures with Andrew Bogut and Marvin Williams, Darren Williams, and Chris Paul with his college coach. Get ready to stay in the basketball world. Go to New Orleans. Back here in New York, so we start with the Atlanta Hawks for the second round and the first selection, just a couple of minutes in between. As we take the big picture of the first round, your thoughts?
Again, I think you saw a significant impact in the middle of this first round for a lot of quality teams. I think Denver in particular is a team that stands out. They're going to be able to get two guys, I think, potentially that could come right in and help on a team that was in the playoffs last year. So a lot of those teams in the middle of the first round, Boston and other, I think served themselves well.
Well, first of all, if you're the Toronto Raptors, you're going to have a lot of explaining to do to take Charlie Villanueva at number 7. That's number 1. If you're the Los Angeles Lakers, you've got a high schooler that's a 7-footer learning under Phil Jackson. You know he can learn a lot. There's a lot of potential there. Boston and Indiana with Granger. And then you've got McCants with Minnesota at number 14, who I think is going to be a big-time player. You're talking about Latrell Sprewell being gone from Minnesota. Basically, that's what it comes down to, because you got McCants.
Teams drafting out of need pushed value down later in the first round, specifically Gerald Green going to Boston. Speaking of that, there is a lot of value in this second round. A lot of really good players available that are going to play for a while in the NBA that are going to be stolen in the second round.
And you'll see some names of players who you might have become familiar with during college basketball. People may have told them that they were a little bit better than they actually turned out to be in NBA of Pittsburgh, for example. Here's Russ Granick.
Good evening. It's great to be here in New York with all my close personal friends in the stands. Welcome to the second round of the draft. As you know, each team will have 2 minutes to make its selection. With the 31st pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Salim Stoudemire from the University of Arizona.
He can stroke it.
I think Salim Stoudemire was the best shooter in this draft. He's a left-hander. Although he is small, he can really get off a shot quickly. He can shoot it off the catch. He can shoot it off the dribble. And he is absolutely fearless. He is a guy late in the game that I would be afraid of having the ball in his hands because he hits big shots. People question his attitude, and I think rightfully so. There's been many a time he's walked off the floor in practice at Arizona to have his own little pity party. Well, I'll tell you what, this kid can flat out shoot it and flat out score. He's got a hunger to score, and he is very solid defensively as well.
Well, Jay, you talk about his ability to shoot. He led the NCAA shooting over 50% from 3. More importantly, this guy will be the starting point guard for the Atlanta Hawks next season as a second-round pick. I think he has that kind of ability, and you might look back on this draft. We talk about all these other great point guards. If this guy develops and matures, talent-wise, he's unmatched, I believe.
A steal.
Marvin Williams, their other pick tonight.
Well, the bottom line is this. Atlanta, in my opinion, has had a good draft. But when I think about Salim Stoudemire, to getting back to him, I'm partial to shooters because I don't see too many of them in the NBA, quite frankly. And when I look at this guy shooting better than 50% from three-point range, he is flat out lethal. The ball is in his hands. You have fear in your eyes because you know if he gets it off, it's probably going to go in. Very good pick.
Look at what some outside shooting changed with Phoenix. Obviously, their tempo, but those kickouts, San Antonio's kickouts as well. Clippers pick next, 32nd overall selection, and back to Russ Granick.
With the 32nd pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Los Angeles Clippers select Daniel Ewing from Duke University.
So after that Carolina run, the Dukies are heard from for the 8th consecutive year. Here is Ewing.
Daniel Ewing has the ability to play the 2 and the ability to play the 1 as well. He is not really a speed merchant with the ball in his hands. He's going to have to back you down a little bit, but he can get his own shot. He's a terrific pull-up jump shooter. He is athletic. He can get up to the rim. He is not particularly strong, but he's got a great first step, and I think he's really solid defensively. He was one of the better on-ball defenders in the ACC last season, and even when Duke had Chris Duhon, they would usually put Daniel Ewing on the primary ball handler because of his defensive ability. Pretty solid pick at the top of the second round.
Just thinking here, would Mike Dunleavy have seen Daniel Ewing play with Mike Dunleavy Jr. at Duke?
Oh, a little bit.
Yeah, 102, the 02 draft. So there was a year there where in watching his son, he got a chance to get an eye on Daniel Ewing. So that's the selection there for the Clippers.
Well, you got to remember the Clippers are looking for a point guard. They're expecting to lose Marco, and the bottom line is at the end of the day, the point guard that they have in place, he's a free agent. They're looking to replace him. That's what Dunleavy had been talking about approaching this draft. He needed another point guard, and Daniel Ewing definitely can do that.
Marco Yarich, the guy you're talking about.
Marco Yarich.
Sean Livingston is the point guard for the LA Clippers, the point guard of the future, and I believe he's the best player in last year's draft. That's how good this young man will be. He had injuries, Sean Livingston, last year, but he will be back and be the starting point guard for the LA Clippers.
Out of PR, you think he's going to be better than Howard and Okafor?
I think so.
Really?
I think that guy has superstar written all over him.
Everybody liked him out there for sure. New Orleans now on the clock. Earlier at the number 4 spot, Byron Scott's team added Chris Paul. Let's see the pick here. Back to Russ.
With the 33rd pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the New Orleans Hornets select Brandon Bass from Louisiana State University.
Well, there's the player Jay was talking about just a few picks ago, staying in state, LSU to New Orleans.
Brandon Bass is a terrific pick. He is a big-time athlete. He's got terrific feet, and he really rebounds out of his area. I'm not sure there was a more respected player in the Southeastern Conference last season. Brandon Bass got better year after year while he was in college. I think he is going to be a pro for a long time because of his rebounding ability. He's got low body fat. I really think he's got great feet, and he's improved offensively every year. But what sets him apart is his ability to rebound the basketball. He is tough-minded. He is a great kid, very respectful. He's going to be a solid citizen. But where he's really going to be solid, he's going to clean the glass for you for a long period of time.
Stromile Swift and Jabari Smith were the last LSU players taken in the draft. LSU hasn't had a player taken since 2000 until the SEC Player of the Year, Brandon Bass, after 2 years, taken in the second round. We have Utah, Portland, Milwaukee waiting to be picked. And there's Darren Williams, along with the people special in his life, and a special night as Utah selects him with the number 3 overall selection. He'll have a teammate at 34. Andre Karolinko and Carlos Boozer healthier. This could be a very different team.
Dan Stan.
Next pick, Utah Jazz, 31st overall. Here's Russ Granick with the selection.
With the 34th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Utah Jazz select C.J. Miles from Skyline High School in Dallas.
A great high school basketball talent down in that Dallas area. C.J. Miles, a high schooler straight in.
He's a lefty with very good ability. He's thin. He needs to get a lot stronger and improve his handle. And obviously he needs a lot of experience, but he's got good passing instincts, good body control, and he's a good wing offensive rebounder on the high school level. He can step out and shoot it, although he is streaky, but in the second round, a solid pick.
He's a 2005 McDonald's High School All-American. You know, this is a second rounder taken as a high school player, and that's rare because we do need to go back and state the obvious for the people who don't follow the draft on a regular basis. The good news, if you're taken in the first round, there's guaranteed money. The bad news becomes that if you're in the second round, you don't have the money guarantee, but you do have the option. Let's say you're a Gilbert Arenas and you star and you hit it big right away. You can get out of your contract a little bit earlier. So there are benefits to the guys in the second round. But mostly when the high school players come out, you look at the first round being the place that they should go. Otherwise, it's a mistake. The other asterisk here, Jay, is the fact that we have the age minimum now, which changes the dynamic of that a little bit.
Yeah, but the draft isn't about whether you can play in the league. These guys, some of these guys can play in the league. The draft is about whether you're going to be selected to play in the league and whether a team is going to make a commitment to you. So if you do fall to the second round, it is a big deal and it is a problem. Now, some of these high school kids still have the option to go into college if they're taken in the second round, if they haven't signed with an agent and are still eligible.
This is the second high school player to be taken in the second round in the last 4 years. So C.J. Miles out of Skyline is taken, the 34th overall selection. And now, once again, we hear from the Portland Trailblazers. So this is a pick that was talked about earlier that could be involved in a potential trade.
With the 35th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Portland Trailblazers select Ricky Sanchez from IMG Academy.
That's multiple high school picks in the second round. We haven't had that since 1998. Corleone Young and Rashard Lewis. Let's bring in Andy Katz, IMG Academy. You brought this up yesterday, Andy. IMG International Management Group, started by the late, great Mark McCormack, represents a lot of athletes, television personalities, has started this academy for helping athletes in that transition phase from prep or college to the pros. And here Sanchez falls into that category, goes into the second round.
Yeah, I got a lot of buzz about this pick actually yesterday down from IMG and within the league that Sanchez could go somewhere high in the second round. He originally actually committed to Memphis, and John Calipari told him, you might as well actually go to the NBA, because he had a feeling that he was going to go somewhere high in the second round. But one other thing, Mike, on C.J. Miles, he's the only remaining high school player that has not signed with an agent. And I talked with his father, Calvin, yesterday, and Texas head coach Rick Barnes today. Both of them told me that if Miles didn't go in the first round, he would go to Texas. Now, that's a rule under the old collective bargaining agreement that expires this week, that you can still go to college if you haven't signed with an agent, but that team owns your rights until the end of your eligibility. So we'll have to see what Miles does now that he's picked high in the second round.
Miles selected by Utah. Thanks for that, Andy. And again, this collective bargaining agreement expires on June 30th, and then the new CBA, which still will be ratified by the Players Association. And they were meeting out in Las Vegas, if memory serves me right, today, and the owners and the Board of Governors, when they meet, that will be looked down the line for the next 6 years. That's when that age minimum of 19 and 1 year removed from your high school graduating class kicks in. Draft round 2 continues. We're back in New York. We follow the Milwaukee Bucks, who at the very top of the draft, after hitting the lottery, there's a 6% chance to get the number 1 pick, took Andrew Bogut and have what they hope is their cornerstone for building in the middle for the future. See what they do in round 2 with the Lakers in Orlando to follow. American Express Draft Track. Let's take you through what's happened. If you're just tuning in tonight, Utah moved up to get Darren Williams with the number 3 overall selection, the earliest an Illinois player has ever been selected. We had a lot of New York fields in the first round. Charlie Villanueva, Julius Hodge, Francisco Garcia from Louisville, and the seniors at the back end of the first round, the last half of the first round, half of that, or really a quarter of round 1, were senior players taken. We have the Lakers coming up here on the clock now at 37 after Milwaukee has just selected with Ersan Ilyasova out of Turkey, an international player. There was some question as to how old he is earlier on, but Ilyasova was taken with the 36th overall selection by the Milwaukee Bucks. Now the Lakers have a couple of times to be heard, starting with pick 37.
With the 37th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Ronny Turiaf from France and Gonzaga University.
Oh, that's a pick from Gonzaga.
And Turiaf is here at the Garden. Andy Katz put that on our radar earlier. Out of Gonzaga, Ronny Turiaf. West Coast Conference Player of the Year in 2005. It's the third time we've seen a Gonzaga player taken in the last 4 years, with Dan Dickau and Blake Stepp taken over the last 2 years.
No, he's 6'10", he's long, he's athletic, he's bouncy, he can block shots, and he can score inside. He's not a polished offensive player, but he's a good and solid player. I thought he had first-round ability and perhaps could have been taken in the first round. And as Russ Granick said before, you know, if you're here tonight, you don't want to be shaking hands with him. You'd rather go in the first round. But he does have a first-round talent, and he's a good pick for the second round. One thing he can really do, he can rebound and he can run, and that's going to serve him well.
Ronny Turiaf from Martinique, a 15-hour flight to Miami, connect from Miami to Seattle. So this guy who comes from the French-controlled island north of Venezuela is going to end up with the Lakers.
Well, it's funny. Going into last season, I felt the biggest issue for the Lakers was their inability to defend the paint. This year in the draft, they tried to address that. The question is whether or not these guys can have an impact right away. But this guy is a senior. He has a lot of experience. And as Jay talked about, that passion, that heart, and he can rebound for his size. Again, those are going to be critical elements as the Lakers try to revamp that roster.
I've seen him play on several occasions. I think this kid is tough. I think he's the kind of guy, Greg, he reminds me of a guy like Udonis Haslem. If you put him alongside some credible players, he can go down there. Both. The look, the feel, everything. I mean, the bottom line is he's got that kind of energy about him. He's that kind of veracity. He really comes at you in a very ferocious fashion. I like him.
The Orlando Magic pick next. We have a fact for you about the second round. All these players we're hearing about here momentarily. Give you a sense of how many of these guys truly have a shot at making it. Here's Russ.
With the 38th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Orlando Magic select Travis Diener from Marquette University.
Hurt at the end of the season, a very good shooter. Travis Diener, top Conference USA performer this year.
He's not only a good shooter, he can shoot from range, but he's also a really good leader. Very good off pick and roll situations. He is solid defensively. He can stay in front of you. He can put the ball on the floor, and he's vocal. I mean, he's a one tough kid. The only problem you would have with a guy like Travis Diener is he's a little bit small. He's kind of like a pinball out there. He gets bounced around a fair amount, and he does get injured because he is a little bit small. But he is a big-time player on a competitive level, and if you give him a step, he can pull a trigger on you, and he can knock it down from deep. I like him as a player. He's been very well coached and turned into a really solid basketball player.
By Tom Crean, part of that magical run a couple of years ago. Marquette got to the Final Four, led, of course, by Dwayne Wade, who is in Miami. Travis Diener goes to Orlando. Point we were going to make a second ago about the guys you're seeing here. Essentially, it's a 1-in-4 shot of making it in the NBA for these players. If you take the 442 players in the league, 60% are first-rounders, 24% are second-rounders, and then the remainder, 16% undrafted players. So you're looking at a 1-in-4 hit-miss ratio with the players selected in this round.
Yeah, you are. But there are going to be certain teams, though, where you're almost a lock to make it as a second-round pick. And I think, as an example, you look at with Terry-Off going to the Lakers, I don't think there's any question he's going to make their team because they need the bodies and the fact that it doesn't cost them a lot to put him on that roster. So you're going to see a multitude of these guys from this year make it in the second round.
And a key change in the collective bargaining agreement that might affect those numbers, larger roster size. One of those players put on the injured list with a fake injury or a made-up injury. We'll have a couple more players on the active roster as we go through, and the NBDL, a new developmental league, for players to grow as well. Back to Russ for the Lakers.
Hey, we have a trade.
All right.
The Denver Nuggets trade the draft rights to Jared Jack at number 22 to the Portland Trailblazers for the draft rights to Linus Kliza at number 27 and the draft rights to Ricky Sanchez at number 35. With the 39th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Von Wafer from Florida State University.
All right, let's go back and clean up that trade after the Von Wafer selection. Andy, you tipped us off to this earlier. Now we can put people in those slots with Portland and Denver trading at 27 and 35.
That's right. And actually, Portland was looking at trading with Seattle before this happened to deal with Denver. The key thing in the second round here is that Ricky Sanchez went to Denver in this trade. That is where he actually had a secret workout within the last couple of weeks. So once he went to Portland in that pick at 35, that's when it really clinched that this trade was going to happen for Denver. So Denver ends up shipping Jarrett Jack to Portland. Mike?
All right, guys, what do you think of Jarrett Jack in Portland?
I think it's a good move. Again, the one thing about it with Sebastian Telfair, you do want to have another guard who has some size because it becomes a matchup issue in the NBA during the course of the regular season. You want to be able to match up with some of the bigger guards, not get Sebastian Telfair exposed. And again, his combination, ability to play some 1 and 2. They got a nice nucleus if you look at Martell Webster in that draft as well. But again, how long will these guys all take to develop before this team can compete for the playoffs?
I do like the fact that he's a bit more mature than some of the young guys they're going to have on their roster. I know John Nash was on here earlier, a little bit sensitive and what have you, but the bottom line is, at the end of the day, this team, bottom line, they need that maturity, and it's good that he's there.
Hey, Jay, can I hit you on Von Wafer here out of Florida State?
Von Wafer, he's got pretty good size. He can shoot the ball a little bit, athletic. He is not particularly disciplined on the defensive end. That's why he's in the second round. His shooting consistency, an issue. He needs to upgrade his ball handling and his passing. A little bit out there and like I say, undisciplined, especially on the defensive end. But he does have some talent. I think he came out way too early. He should have stayed in school to become a higher pick. Again, this is not about whether you can play in the league. He might be able to find a place, but whether you're going to be selected and whether somebody will make a commitment to you.
So Ronnie Turioff and Von Wafer, the back-to-back with one in the middle selections. For the Lakers here, round 2 earlier, they took Andrew Bynum. So Turioff, the most proven and the largest resume and collective body of work of the 3 players that the Lakers have selected here in their first 39 selections in the draft. We have Golden State, Toronto, then Golden State again to pick here, and we'll go back to Russ Granick to find out what the Warriors are going to do with their first 2 selections here in this second round.
With the 40th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Golden State Warriors select Monta Ellis from Lanier High School in Jackson, Mississippi.
And Andy Katz, this is the player who scored the most points ever in Mississippi State high school history. And that's impressive when you think Al Jefferson, Travis Outlaw, Jonathan Bender have all come out from high school right to the NBA in the last few years.
That's right. He actually signed to go to Mississippi State, but there had been some questions about his knee. He actually had it scoped. There was a meniscus injury earlier in the winter, but I do know that his agent, Andy Miller, was really trying to find a home for him throughout the course of the day. They were getting scared that he was dropping into the second round. So he has signed with an agent, as I said. He has to stay in the NBA. Cannot go to Mississippi State.
Mike, he's a big-time scorer. He can get his own shot, and he can shoot it from deep. He's very right-handed. He needs to upgrade his ball handling, and he is weak. He only benched 185 one time in Chicago. He's young and immature.
When we come back, Toronto on the clock. We'll check the Raptors. Golden State waves back in. Then we'll go across the Hudson for the New Jersey Nets. Second-round selection. Picks come fast. Say all about the players and the big picture of what's going on in the league. Raptors coming up after this.
You figured somebody'd take a shot at him.
We are back to the 2005 NBA Draft, and let's check out the Toronto Raptors selection. 41 overall, 41 of 60 selections here tonight.
With the 41st pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Toronto Raptors select Roko Ukic from Croatia.
Fran Fraschilla watching the international players. What about Urko?
6'5" point guard, Mike. He's 21, but he's got about 5 years of pro experience. I got to know this guy over the last couple of years at the Reebok Euro Camp. He would swim across the Atlantic to play in the NBA, so I know this last 3 or 4 hours have been hard for him. But he's a solid player. He's able to get into the lane off the dribble. He's got to improve his outside shooting, but he loves to play the game of basketball. He plays it the right way. Dribbling, ball handling is a strength. Love of the game. Got to work on the outside shot. But a good pick here for Toronto, who needs help everywhere.
Earlier, Toronto took Charlie Villanueva and Joey Graham, and now at Roko Ukic from Croatia, whose dad, by the way, plays the drums in a band that's very hot in Croatia. So you can go online and try to download Roko's dad's rock beats. Video conferencing time. I did much too much reading. To San Antonio, let's bring in R.C. Buford, general manager of the world champion San Antonio Spurs. R.C., how hard is it to focus on the draft when you're in the middle of day in, day out, all the pressure and the excitement that's around being in the finals?
Well, the coaches really absorb a lot of that pressure. We've got to do the process as it goes. It's probably more difficult just because you don't get time in front of the players like you would with your coaching staff. But outside of that, it's just part of the process.
We talked about the international history of the past continuing at this 28th spot. As you analyze it, what is the most essential ingredient when trying to scout and figure out if these international players can bring their skill set to the NBA?
Well, I think that the competitiveness that they play with and just their basketball players. And we've tried not to look at it as as an international or American, just a global talent pool, and let's find who the best players are.
With the player that you took from France, what are your plans for him short term?
Well, our hope is that he'll stay overseas, as a couple of our other guys have, continue to grow. He's very young. We're not anticipating that he's going to have an impact on our roster for a couple of years, but we hope he grows, and we'll see what happens.
R.C., thanks, and I didn't get to see you after the finals. Congratulations to you and the rest of the Spurs.
Thanks very much, man.
R.C. Buford in San Antonio, 2 championships in 3 years, 3 championships in 7 years. We have Golden State now here on the clock, back to their second pick in the last 3.
With the 42nd pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Golden State Warriors select Chris Taft from the University of Pittsburgh.
From Xaverian High School, same high school here in the New York City area as Chris Mullin. But Jay, here's a guy who, if you looked at some mock drafts, and anybody can do one, a couple of months ago, some people had him in the first round.
I don't know who was doing that. I mean, we talked all year long in college basketball that Chris Taft was not ready for this. At this stage in the draft, he's a good pick because he's 6'10", he's long, he's got a 7-foot wingspan. He's a pretty good athlete. He can block shots, he can rebound. but thus far in his career, he's unskilled, and he needs to work on those skills. He is not a good shooter. He does not have great hands. He has not yet learned how to play, but he can be productive in the NBA if he's given some time and if he is brought along. His footwork needs a lot of work. He's got a little jump hook, but he does not shoot the ball well. He does not make his free throws. It really troubles me that people talked him out of college thinking that he was going to be a lottery pick when I think most knowledgeable observers felt he wasn't even close to that.
So Chris Tapps taken by Golden State with the 42nd overall pick after a couple of years at Pittsburgh. The Nets are on the clock, followed by Orlando, Philly, Indiana, Minnesota. Maybe your team's got a pick coming up. We'll continue with the second round from New York after this.
White man.
All right, back here in New York, the American Express Draft Track. Those of you who are just tuning in, Andrew Bogut, first Aussie selected #1 overall by the Milwaukee Bucks back some 3.5 hours ago. Then Atlanta selecting Marvin Williams, starting a run of North Carolina players taken 4 in the first 14, and then we went to the point guard run 3, 4, 5 with Darren Williams to Utah, Chris Paul to New Orleans, and Raymond Felton to Charlotte. The New Jersey Nets just took Mili Ilic from Serbia, a center, as the draft continues. We're at pick 44 now with the Orlando Magic, followed by Philadelphia, Indiana, and Minnesota as we continue to move through the second round. Overall, what this draft has done in a lot of ways is shape the international folks and the high schoolers. And remember, we will not have high schoolers in this draft next year with the new minimum age, and international players, we have had 7 taken thus far. Jay Billis?
Well, Mili Ilic, a pretty good pick for New Jersey. He's 7 feet tall, 21 years old. He's got a pretty good touch, and he's got experience. But in the second round, that's a solid pick. But I don't think these high school players expected to be taken in the second round, nor did a lot of these European players expect to be taken in the second round. You come into the draft to be taken in the first.
And Dick Vitale, going to bring in Richard one last time from Florida before we say goodnight to you, Dick. As you have watched this draft, you talked about the international players and the high school players. Give me your overall final view of the picks tonight.
Well, let me just say this, Mike. Howie Schwab had to wake me up. You forgot about me. But I'll simply tell you this. When you look at this draft right now, hey, who's advising these kids? What about kids like Randolph Morris, Azubuike, Kentucky guys, Shavlak Randolph, John Gilchrist, Walsh, Roberson? What are they thinking? Leaving school, go to the draft, not even first rounders, and are going to be basketball vagabonds. They're listening to the wrong people. Stealing the draft? Salim Stoudemire, Atlanta, shocking the draft, Toronto with that choice of Villanueva, and then A+ to Charlotte with Felton and certainly May. They're the winners of the draft. I got to go to sleep, man. Good night. Goodbye. I love you.
This is Dick Vitale actually asking to no longer be on the air. This is Dick, we didn't forget you. We love you. Good talk to you. We'll talk to you during the summer, buddy. Dick Vitale from Florida, getting a TO for the rest of the night. We're back with more of the picks as we continue with the 2005 draft. You've seen some of the players that Dick was talking about, including that connection of Carolina Tar Heels, Charlotte Back. Back here in New York as the draft continues. We've got the 45th pick from Philadelphia.
With the 45th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Lewis Williams from South Gwinnett High School in Snellville, Georgia.
There was a company that actually spent $1,000 a seat to make sure they had tickets behind the bench so they could watch Lewis Williams play. The Naismith High School Player of the Year, Michael Vick, has come in to watch him play in person. But Andy, here we got a 4th player now from high school going in the second round.
That's right. Lewis Williams signed to go to Georgia. He thought all along he was going to be in the first round. Certainly a humbling night for him because he was convinced that he would go in the first round. Now, Andre Blatch is another name that we haven't heard yet. He was another guy that was supposed to be in the first round out of South Kent High School. The reason he is sliding is he did not work out for a lot of teams. In fact, yesterday he was at Boston and refused to work out, was only there for about 45 minutes. So a lot of second-round high school guys right now that have to go to the NBA. They can't go to college because they've signed with agents.
Thank you, Andy. Jay?
The reason they're they're sliding is they're not first-round players. I mean, Lewis Williams is a good talent. He's got quickness, he's got speed, he's got length, but he's not a shooter, and he is not a point guard. And if you can't play the point at 6'2", you're not a valuable commodity in the NBA. That's why he slid to the second round. And again, these guys not getting good information that they would be first-round picks. You don't go into the draft to be in the second round. That's a bad decision by these kids.
Steve, before I hop on, do you think that has anything to do with the age minimum and the potential of that coming in this year?
It might have had something to do with it. It doesn't make it the right decision. To come in, you'd be better off going to college and increasing your value.
Well, let me say this. My heart goes out to Lewis Williams and his family, because if you're talking about coming to the Philadelphia 76ers and you can't shoot and you're not a point guard, you wasted your time, because you're not going to say you might get a uniform, and that's about it.
Indiana's pick is next at number 46. Back to Russ Granick, the Deputy Commissioner.
With the 46th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Indiana Pacers selected Razim Lorbek from Slovenia.
Who, as college basketball, especially Big Ten fans know, had some time at Michigan State as well. Fran Fraschilla.
Right, Mike. He spent a year at Michigan State for Tom Izzo, left after that first year to go back to Europe. He played at Climamio Bologna this year, and he's actually improved his stock. He was the best young player in the EuroLeague. He's a skilled forward, can play inside and out, not a great athlete, which holds him back, but he has improved since his freshman year at Michigan State. This is a good, solid pick in the middle of the second round.
Hey, Fran, let's drop back a couple. Again, this pronunciation I've heard differently. Andrius or Andrius Skavicius. Or that one, too, taken by Orlando. That's a player who we heard with some first-round potential earlier on, as late as a couple of days ago.
Mike, this guy's agent should be fired. A year ago, he would have been a top 10 pick, and that goes to show you how NBA teams would have been tricked. Everybody loved this guy last year, but he really hasn't made a step up in terms of improvement. Didn't play much for Žalgiris in the Lithuanian League, the club owned by Arvydas Sabonis. This guy would have been a lottery pick last year. He needs a lot of work. It's a good pick in the middle of the second round, but he would have been a multi-millionaire a year ago. Again, it just goes to show you the amount of time and effort NBA teams are putting in, because he did not have a good year this year.
And he instead becomes the ninth international player, 9 international players taken here in the draft. He was taken by Orlando a couple of picks ago. We have Minnesota, Seattle, and Washington picking in the next 3. As the picks go by, we want to bring in via video conference from across the border in Toronto, Rob Babcock, the general manager of the Raptors, and talk about your selections. Rob, I think some people were surprised when you took Charlie Villanueva. Some people did not have him early. What did you see in Charlie that you liked about him to take him at number 7 overall?
Well, we see Charlie as a very versatile big man, a guy that can play multiple positions. He's mainly a 4-5, but he can even swing out and play a little bit of 3 in certain matchups. He can go outside, he can go inside, he can pass the ball, he can put it in the floor, and he can post up.
And then you took Joey Graham at the 16th selection out of Oklahoma State. What were your keys there?
Well, we really need to address the defensive end of our team, and Joey coming from Oklahoma State and then being a great athlete and also having a desire to play defense. This is a guy that really helps us in that area and with leadership, and he can shoot the ball as well.
Rob, we've talked about your franchise and where this franchise is going, that you have Chris Bosh in a position similar to Villanueva. I know you just brought up Villanueva's versatility in your mind. Give me an overall big picture of where this franchise is right now.
Well, we're not anywhere close to where we want to be. We're certainly in the building stage. Right now we're establishing a foundation, a good core group of young guys that really believe in our philosophy of team basketball, defense, and giving it a full effort and doing things the right way on and off the court. So we have a ways to go on that. Through the draft with good young players coming in that fit our philosophy is the way we're trying to build.
Why follow up having Bosh, having your most established player in terms of young players? We know Jalen Rose is there. Why follow up having him with a guy like Villanueva, whose best position is probably similar to Bosh?
Well, Chris can play. He's a 4 who can play 5 and can play 3. Charlie's a guy who's a 4-5 who can also play a little 3. You can play the guys together on the court at the same time. And, we're going with the best big guy that we could find at that point. And that was important for us. And you can't really, differentiate. Sometimes you have to go with the same position. You're going with the best big guy we could get.
All right, Rob, thank you. We appreciate you joining us tonight, and good luck next year. Rob Babcock
Thank you very
with
much.
the Toronto Raptors, who are coached, as you know, by Sam Mitchell, as they try to get that franchise really in a major makeover and try to get back to where they can be more successful. We have pick 47, belonging to Minnesota, and then Seattle. You have a thought while you're sitting there listening to that?
I'd rather not even repeat it right now. Not after watching what that man just explained about drafting Charlie Villanueva after having Chris Bosh. I have no idea.
Nobody talked about Araju.
From last year's draft from Brazil.
Huh?
That was last year's draft, the guy from Brazil. Seattle's pick.
The 48th pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Seattle Sonics select Michael Gelabal from Guadalupe.
Michael, we have a lot of the second-round crew here tonight. Fran Fraschilla would be, I guess, the guy to bring in here on Gelabal, who you were touting earlier.
I like saying his name, Mike. Let me do it again. Michael Gelabal. A lot of Americans don't like the French right now, but the NBA does, because this is the fourth Frenchman taken in 47 picks. He's a 6'7" wing player. For 22 years old, he's very mature. He's a good athlete, does a lot of little things well. Most importantly, he's a no-mistake guy, and he's going to play in a system where he doesn't have to do a lot. He'll just add and be, I think, a good rotation player. I like this pick. He could have gone at the end of the first round, so he's good value, middle of the second round.
And both Seattle selections have been international players, and as we said, he is here, so this may be an individual record for Russ Granick for handshakes here.
Needs a bigger hat. Got to get this guy a bigger lid.
Yeah, we might have to get you that kind of hairstyle.
That might work for you, Jay.
That'd look good in the dress. He's a big-time athlete, though. That's a steal for Seattle. And kudos to their scouting staff for him dropping there. Solid.
That's the point Nate McMillan made when I was trying to ask him about coaching and where he's going to coach.
You're not listening, Mike. You're not listening.
Nate knows I was listening. He was
second year in a row, Mike. Last year, Bernie did that to you.
That's right. I know.
You remember that?
What does Nate McMillan do great? He defended. Played darn good defense on that one. So, in any case, the Sonics with a couple. Hey, right before that, Bracy Wright out of Indiana. And if you watch the Big Ten on ESPN and around the country, you know he's a very good player in terms of scoring. Led the Big Ten in scoring at 18 per game. He was taken 47 overall by Minnesota.
Only measured out to about 6'3", but he's really, really long-armed and a very good shooter and can make shots under pressure. I question whether he can get his own shot in the NBA and whether he's going to be a good enough defender, whether he's athletic enough. He has had some injury problems, including a back problem. Unfortunately for him as a freshman, he was really hot as a freshman and a hot name. I remember when he was the MVP of the Maui Invitational, people were talking about him as a first-round pick. It didn't quite work out for him throughout his career that way. I do think he can play, though, in the NBA because of his ability to shoot the ball from long range and how long he is.
So that's the second-round selection for the Minnesota Timberwolves. The first Indiana player taken in the last 3 years of the draft. Of course, we had Jared Jeffries taken in 2002, and Jeffries a starter on Washington's team this year. Back to Russ Granick for the next pick. This is number 49 overall. Speaking of Washington, here we hear from the Wizards for the first time tonight.
With the 49th pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Washington Wizards select Andre Bloch from South Kent Prep in Connecticut.
Via Henniger High School in Syracuse, New York.
Andre Bloch went to the same school as Darrell Wright last year, who went to Miami in the first round. He's still very raw. He's 7 feet tall. He's long. He's got a soft touch. Pretty good hands. Runs the floor well. He's got all the tools to be a good player down the line. Not overly skilled in the post. That's something I think he's really got to work on. And he's very emotional. He's got a little bit of a quick trigger temper, but he can be a good player. He had a really good game in the Jordan All-Star game. And, you heard Gerald Green earlier tonight and Martell Webster talk about they had really good high school All-Star games, and that let them know that they were ready for the NBA.
Yes.
You know what? It's not always how you play in a high school All-Star game. Give the NBA a little more credit for scouting more than just an All-Star game when there's no defense played.
The only thing I'd like to say about that is that if he is as emotional as you say, Jay, well, that means he wants to play the game of basketball, which would be a marked improvement over what Kwame Brown gave you last season. The bottom line is it would be an improvement.
That's an interesting story in Washington. What's going to happen with Kwame Brown? Obviously, at the end of the year, he was invited not to show up to the playoffs as we've reached the end of his rookie deal. So Russ, for the Celtics pick.
With the 50th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Ryan Gomes from Providence University.
There's another senior, Afraya, from the Northeast. Will stay there out of Waterbury, Connecticut, then to Providence, and now to the Celtics. Ryan Gomes, the last Providence player taken in the draft in the first round, was Austin Crozier. He's taken in the second round with a memorable moment. Last game of his career against St. John's, he talked about what do? You kiss the floor? People have done that before. No, he wanted to leave his sneakers out on the floor at what is now called the Dunkin' Donuts Center, the Providence Civic Center, just because he wanted it to be known, a guy who could have come out last year, that he left everything on the floor during his Providence days.
And he was a great college player. He did everything that was asked of him, and he was a winner. He reminds me a little bit of an Adrian Dantley type player in the pros. He is undersized as a four-man. He can step out and play a little bit of three. He's not a great athlete, but he's crafty. He's smart. He knows how to get a shot off in the post. The question is he going to be able to face up, and will he be able to guard on that level? I think he can play in the NBA and can play for a long time.
Another guy that comes to my mind, Eric Williams, very similar player, a little bit undersized, but a high skill level and an understanding of how to play the game of basketball. And again, another nice pick for the Celtics, just another basketball player.
Sort of reminded me a little bit of Clarence Weatherspoon the few times I saw him. You know, willing to go down in the post, a bit undersized, but a wide body, could get physical with you and take it to you.
We're going to go to break here. Miami's going to come up. We're going to talk to Randy Fund, their GM, momentarily. Do you remember when people were laughing, what is Boston going to do with those 3 first-rounders last year? Look at the last 6 players they've drafted. We don't know if Ryan Gomes is going to pan out, but Danny Ainge has done a very good job of bringing young talent there in Boston. Also, the number 1 and number 2 pick, obviously they have teams, they have big contracts as rookies, but what kind of impact will they make in the business world? Endorsements outside. Darren Ravel, our ESPN.com business editor, joins us after this. Back here at nighttime in New York City. By the way, Chicago, Cleveland, and Dallas, we say hi. We haven't talked about you because you have no picks here in the 2005 NBA Draft, but we're thinking of you. Miami had the 29th overall selection and via video conference. Let's bring in the general manager of the Miami Heat, Randy Fund. Randy, let's start with Wayne Simeon, your pick. There's a player who did slide down because of some of the injuries. How much of a concern were the injuries in his past as you selected him here at the back end of the first round?
No, we were very excited about the possibility of adding a player like this to our team. He's a 20-10 guy. He's Conference Player of the Year, and I've seen a lot of games with Kansas, and you get him down in that left block, and he can score. So we just got to tell him that we have another big fella that locates down on the left block and find a new spot for him.
Can't imagine who you're talking about. Speaking of that big fella, Mr. O'Neal, obviously with a contract situation where there's a player option, how close are the conversations with getting an extension done with Shaq down there?
Well, we've been concentrated on this draft, and Pat Riley and Stan, we spent a lot of time getting ready for this night, so now we'll start to turn our attention to free agency, and this week we'll begin that process. We're hopeful we can do that as soon as possible, and obviously we want the big anchor down there for next season, so we'll be working hard to get that done as soon as possible.
Randy, when you get so close, really 4 or 5 possessions go the other way. Dwayne Wade stays healthy. It could have been your team playing instead of Detroit against San Antonio in the finals. When you get back out of the games and assess the franchise, where do you feel you have to grow to take the next step?
Well, you never like to lose that kind of a game 7. You know, those wear on you a little bit over the years. But we've made great strides in this organization in the last couple of years. We feel like we've got some young talent that can get better. And we'll look, to re-sign the guys we have, obviously with Shaq and Haslam and Damon Jones. And, then if we can add to that, we can continue to build this team. But I think tonight we added a good one in Wayne Simeon, a guy that can come in and hopefully contribute right away. He's a great college player, and we're excited about having him.
Oh, Miami's very excited about the Heat now. Randy, thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you during the summer.
All right.
Randy Funn, the general manager of the Miami Heat. They really have turned that franchise around from where they were just a couple of years ago. Dwayne Wade certainly helping Shaq, taking them over the top. Want to look at the last three selections here? You have Robert Whaley out of Walsh University. He was the NAIA Player of the Year, but college hoop fans might remember him, Jay. He went to Cincinnati.
Came out of high school, started at Missouri, or at least committed to Missouri, wound up at Cincinnati, was an underachiever, out of shape at times, didn't always get up and down the floor. Utah taking a flyer really on his potential because he does have the ability to play this game. He can block shots, he can rebound, he's got good hands, he's got all the tools to be good. The question is, will he be able to get his motor started? But in the second round, you can take a risk on a guy like him. Interesting pick also by Boston, taking Orion Green out of Louisiana Lafayette. Remember, Orion Green started out at the University of Florida. A big-time athlete, can really get off his feet. I just think it's interesting that Orion Green winds up going ahead of Matt Walsh, who comes out of the University of Florida early, and Anthony Roberson coming out of the University of Florida early. Guys telling them they're going to be first-round picks. I don't know who told Matt Walsh he was going to be a first-round pick, but whoever told him that was an idiot.
The Knicks are next, followed by Seattle, Detroit. Couple more as we wrap up.
I gotta give him love there.
Is it not true?
You see him to sit next to Steven for 5 hours?
I like to, absolutely.
5 hours next to you. See what you felt to him?
Terrible.
With the 54th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the New York Knicks select Dijon Thompson from UCLA.
That, by the way, guys, will be the second straight year that the Knicks have taken a UCLA player in the second round. They took Trevor Ariza last year, and 9 consecutive years a UCLA player has been taken. A consecutive streak unmatched by any other school in college basketball.
And Trevor Ariza worked out pretty well here in New York. Dijon Thompson has the ability to play the two-guard spot. He can handle the ball. He's a pretty good passer, very good long-range shooter. He is long. He was recruited by Steve Lavin. I think that Ben Howland was able to toughen him up. A much better player, much better leader over the last couple of years. He looks for quick drives when he catches it. He tends to float around the perimeter. He needs to learn to attack the basket a little bit more and needs to upgrade his handle, I think, a little bit better. But when he catches and has a little bit of space, he knocks down shots.
So let's look at what the Knicks have done here. Channing Frye from Arizona, and then David Lee at the back end of the first round out of Florida, and here Dijon Thompson from UCLA. So the Knicks making an impact, they hope, here in this 2005 draft. Well, obviously there's a lot of money conversation here, dollars and cents of the entire thing, and chiefly among that would be the picks at the very top of the draft, because not just their teams, but the individuals. There's marketing opportunities. Darren Ravel covers the business beat as well as anybody. Does it for ESPN.com. Darren, let me start with Milwaukee. Having a number 1 pick like Andrew Bogut, can that have a direct financial impact?
I do not think that they are lining up in Milwaukee to get some tickets. Nothing against Andrew Bogut, but he's not the hometown guy like LeBron James. They're not going to be selling 280,000 more seats like they did with James, but I would say the big winners here have nothing to do with the number 1 pick. It's the Charlotte Bobcats. If you look at Sean May and Raymond Felton, I mean, you just look at that and you just see what that they can do. It's amazing at what they can do with. And there you see attendance. LeBron James, 278,000. Yao Ming, 83,000. Kwame Brown, 200,000. That has to do with Jordan's comeback. But, it's really tough to tell. But I would say that the Charlotte Bobcats have the chance to get the greatest attendance bump from all this when you look at the fact that they just have it and they got those 2 guys from UNC.
And Darren, they're going to a new building. They don't have a naming rights deal, which is very important financially. And the cable channel that they had started to carry their games was folded today. Is that correct?
That is correct. They did fold that channel. They just decided that it was no longer going to work, and so obviously they had to cut some people, and this will do wonders, though, moving into that new building and the fact that their attendance was the second worst in the NBA last year.
Good stuff, Darren. Thank you. We appreciate it. Darren Ravel, ESPN.com. You'll break down some more of the financials as they impact the NBA draft. We are up to pick 55 here in the draft. Back to Seattle. They've taken a couple of international players. Let's go back to Russ Cranach.
With the 55th pick in the 2005 NBA Draft, the Seattle Sonics select Lawrence Roberts from Mississippi State University.
Well, there's Lawrence Roberts, a player, Jay, who a lot was expected as he became a first-team All-American 2004, part of the many players who transferred from Baylor, found new homes and successful homes. A little bit of a disappointing senior season, but selected here by Seattle.
And he's solid. He's athletic. He's strong around the basket. And he's got a good talent level. I think he's got great hands, and he's got the ability to get deep post position. And he plays angles very, very well. Can rebound. He can guard in the post against similarly sized guys, but he's not really a perimeter player. And at his size, that's going to hurt him a little bit. He doesn't really have face-up ability, but he can get inside and score. And I think that's a good pick by Seattle. He does have a chance because he knows how to play.
And, of course, on a personal note for us, a nephew of our colleague at ESPN for a long time, and now one of the three hosts of Good Morning America, Robin Roberts. With all due respect to Lawrence, I will still say Robin's got the best basketball game in the family because we talk to Robin on a regular basis. So, in any case, Lawrence Roberts out of Mississippi State taken by Seattle. We have 5 more teams remaining. Detroit's going to pick a couple of times here, and the Utah Jazz had an impact in this draft, obviously, with that trade at the number 3 spot, and they moved up to go get Darren Williams, then C.J. Miles, the high schooler, and Jay just broke down Robert Whaley from Walsh University, the top NAIA player in the country. And for more on the Utah Jazz selections, we are joined by Kevin O'Connor. We got to see on draft night the Vice President of Basketball Operations for the Utah Jazz. Why the move, Kevin, up to number 3? Was it a player you targeted or a point guard you wanted to get?
I think it was both, Mike. We really looked at it in a situation where we were afraid all of them could be gone, and we think they had 3 terrific players at 3, 4, and 5. And then if we moved up, we would have our choice, and that's how we felt. You know, we had accumulated some draft picks, obviously through when we were going through our salary cap moves, and we were able to use those to get what we wanted.
What assessment of Williams made you feel that he was the best fit for the system and Jerry's system, as we all know, asked the point guard to do so much?
I think, I wouldn't say size was the factor. I think the confidence that looked like his teammates had in him, his ability to be a basketball player and a leader on the floor was something that just stood out to us.
Kevin, we appreciate it. Thank you, and good luck to you guys. And the big news for Utah otherwise is that Jerry Sloan back on board for a couple of seasons there as the coach. So we thank Kevin O'Connor and everyone who's joined us via video conference tonight from around the 17 NBA sites where we've had video conference. Detroit with a pick. They took a high school player. We have a record number of high school players taken in this last year of high school draftees. Details on that player, the rest of the draft. Remember, SportsCenter comes up at the top of the hour, a night when Darren Williams became a member of the Utah Jazz.
I'm here.
Just a couple of picks left in the 2005 NBA Draft. I'm bringing Andy Katz following the high schoolers as the Pistons take the California Mr. Basketball, Amir Johnson, direct out of high school. Andy?
Well, he actually signed to go to Louisville and has apparently signed with SFX. That makes him ineligible to return, or go to college. But Amir Johnson thought, once again, misinformed, that he would be in the first round. Mike?
So that means we have a record 9 high school players taken in this draft. Can't help but think that is affected somehow by the thought that the age minimum was going to come, and in fact it did. Now the Denver Nuggets, we mentioned their selections. Julius Hodge, the swingman out of North Carolina State, taken right after Hakeem Warwick. Then Jarrett Jack out of Georgia Tech with the trade, and the player from Belgium, Hervel, a few minutes ago. As we go to video conference one more time, we bring in Kiki Vandeweghe joining us from Denver. Kiki, Julius Hodge, and fitting into what you guys are doing. Watching you so often in the second half of the season, the spot at 2 guard was one you wanted to address. What of Hodge's skills let you believe he can be a guy to fit in?
Well, I think he's a great pick for us. He's got tremendous leadership ability. I think he's a multiple position player and especially defender. And, he was asked to do a lot at NC State. And I think for us, he's going to fit in very, very well with the players we have.
Kiki, as a team, when Jarrett Jack becomes in this one of these trade situations and you end up getting your hands on him, what was the thinking behind that?
Well, it's part of a different scenario, so that's something we'll discuss in a little while.
Okay, you have to make sure until that's official. There was talk of you being involved with the Cleveland situation. As you discussed with them, and you've ended up back in Denver, what has ended up being the big reason why you would like to stay with the Nuggets organization?
You know, I love it here in Denver, and I love the Nuggets. Obviously, I played here. I have a home here, and this is the owner has given me a tremendous opportunity here. I'm very, very happy. We put a lot of work into building this team, and I think we all really want to see it through.
When you have that great boost, that spike at the end of the year when George came in, as you won 32 of those 40 games, expectations will be high for next year. Where do you feel the team has to improve the most to help live up to that right out of the gate?
Well, I think we have a lot of veteran players. We have a great core group coming back, and obviously George Karl did a tremendous job. And I think given the whole summer and a training camp with Coach Karl, I think it's just going to naturally improve the team. We're looking at a couple positions. Everyone's talked about shooting guard. But we just like to improve our team wherever we can.
Kiki, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Of course, Denver and Portland made that trade with Linus Kleza out of Missouri at the 27th spot when Jarrett Jack was selected, and that Jarrett Jack pick ending up in Portland, as the guys talked about, and 27 and 35 became players that ended up with the Denver Nuggets, and 35 being Ricky Sanchez, the player who was technically a high school player out of IMG Academy. Last couple of picks, let's bring in Fran Fraschilla, because we've got Gortat taken by Phoenix and Slokar taken by Toronto out of Slovenia, a couple of more international players.
Well, Marcin Gortat, 7 foot tall. He won the dunk contest last year. Reebok Eurocamp. He took off from almost outside near the top of the key. And then Slokar, a young man from Slovenia, who at one time was a big-time prospect, Mike, slipped off the map. He goes late second round.
Thank you, Fran. We have Atlanta and the Pistons, the final two picks to wrap up the draft. Remember, SportsCenter comes away at the top of the hour. Full recap of the draft and baseball. And the Hardy fans here, give yourselves a round of applause. You've made it through round two. All right, time to wrap it up. 60th and final pick of the draft. It goes back to the Detroit Pistons, and Russ Granick will have the final selection.
I want to thank all the folks at ESPN that work with us tonight, and especially the draft faithful who stick it out to the bitter end. And with the 60th and final pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Detroit Pistons select Alex Acker from Pepperdine University. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Remember, SportsCenter's next. Thoughts on Acker?
He's long. He's a good, solid guard and a scorer. He's got one-on-one ability. He needs to play with a little more passion, a little more fire. Otherwise, he would have been, I think, a higher pick. But he's got ability. I really like his length. I think he needs to upgrade his handle a little bit and upgrade his passing. But solid guy that can play in the league and can make a team.
And again, so many of these players are going to have the opportunity to go to the NBDL, the Development League. The thought there is get 15 teams, and those teams will be stocked by 2 NBA teams each, and certainly have much more of a minor league, developmental league for basketball and, frankly, business reasons as it try to grow. So 60 picks in the books. When we come back, the guys will have their views, who did very well tonight on draft night, how the whole shakedown went with the point guards at the top of the draft, how it broke down in a very intriguing second round. All of that as we put a bow on the 2005 NBA draft before we send you to SportsCenter in a minute. The emotional and funny moments of the night. I'm being text messaged nonstop by my friends in Seattle already for beating up Nate. I'm not beating up Nate McMillan. We just want to know, because that's the big drama as we go through this off. In any case, let's talk draft. Give me teams as you now step back and look at the picks. Who did a good job here tonight?
Well, I definitely think the Boston Celtics did a good job in drafting Gerald Green, and I definitely believe that the Indiana Pacers did an outstanding job in drafting Granger. As Greg Anthony stated earlier, Granger's a Scottie Pippen kind of good caliber player. Then you look at Gerald Green with the Boston Celtics. I mean, Jay explained that this guy's got all the requisite skills. He's young, he's unpolished, but he's still arguably one of the best athletes in the draft. I just like what Boston's done as well.
I agree with Boston. I mean, to get Gerald Green at 18 is almost like stealing. And, Greg said earlier, because of the need that was addressed at the top of the draft, the middle of the draft wound up getting some steals. And, Stephen A. addressed it with Indiana, taking Danny Granger and, Hakeem Warwick going there as well. I thought Atlanta did a good job in this draft, getting Marvin Williams, obviously number 2. And then they got a really good player, really good shooter, in Salim Stoudemire at the top of the second round.
Yeah, for me, I think Atlanta is a team, if you think about it, they potentially will have 2 starters out of this draft. Anytime you get a starter out of the second round, I think that's a plus. And again, Salim Stoudemire has the ability to be as good as any point guard selected in this draft. He has some polishing up to do at that position, but there's no doubt in terms of his ability to score the basketball, which is imperative as a lead guard in the NBA.
Just to point, some of the guys not taken as the night went on. We talk about college players who he became familiar with. John Gilchrist from Maryland, Kalena Azubuike, Chuck Hayes, Keith Langford, John Lucas III, Chris Thomas, Notre Dame, Anthony Roberson, Jawad Williams. The North Carolina guys talked about him. Just some of the names, Kennedy Winston as well. Some of the names of players we've seen a lot, but were not taken in part because the back half of that second round became all international high school players. Rick Bucher, your final thoughts tonight.
What surprised me was that there were a number of teams in the bottom half of this draft that were looking to trade up to get the guy that they wanted, and they never had to do it because so many guys that they did not expect to be there fell. I'm talking about the Antoine Wrights, the Joey Grahams, the Danny Grangers, even the Gerald Greens. Those teams were discussing as the draft went on how to move up to 13 with Charlotte. That was the highest pick that I heard that was hot. And they never had to do it because the guy that they wanted ultimately fell to them.
Let's bring in Andy Katz. Andy, your final thoughts tonight.
These players are listening to. Andrew Bynum apparently was listening to the right people because he thought he was going in the lottery and he went as high as number 10. Some of those other high school seniors didn't go in the first round when they thought they would. Guys like Andre Blatch and Monte Ellis and Lewis Williams. And then one other player on the college scene that you didn't mention, St. Joseph's Dwayne Jones. He told his coach Phil Martelli he was going in the first round. He went undrafted. Mike?
Thank you, Andy. 9 high school players were taken overall tonight, with the majority of those coming in the second round, 6 of them. Fran Fraschilla is standing by. Fran, we saw, as you kind of projected, a lot of international players going as we got into the second round.
You're right, Mike. What happened tonight was the NBA's infatuation with the international hype, to me, is officially dead. Only 4 in the first round, the least since 1999. What that tells me is more NBA teams are putting time and resources into really paying attention to these guys, and that's why you saw so many guys go in the second round, guys that could be players down the road. And remember, they can stay in Europe and still develop their skills.
Thank you, Fran, and thank you, everyone, for your expertise all night. When you look at a breakdown of how the 60 picks shook down in draft night, 17 players, so just under a third of the draft college seniors, and then a full third were underclassmen, so about 2/3 of the draft college players, 9 high school players, 14 international. The second round, you had 10 international players, 6 high school players. So half the second round, or in some ways, stick a toe in the water, see where you're going to get high school players, international players. Last headline, 5 seconds.
Well, no headline, but I tell you what, I love working with Jay Billis because he really does a great job in terms of really telling you a lot about these young players. Stephen A. and I, let's be realistic, we don't get an opportunity to see these guys nearly as much as he does. And so what he brought to the broadcast for me was very helpful.
Well, I also want to thank Jay because he got opinionated, and I'm so proud of you.
You're terrible.
They're terrible.
I didn't think you would.
I still have issue with his belief with the age limit. I still have an issue with the age limit with Jay.
But a reasonable disagreement.
Well, we can agree to disagree.
Exactly. Without being disagreeable.
The 2005 draft class now has places to call. For many, it was a quick night. They knew what they were going to hear, and they got the call right away. Roy Williams had a lot of tables to go see. Darren Williams ending up in Utah, and as the night went on, long faces turned into smiles, and dreams came true. For all the women and men on our ESPN crew, thank you for watching the 2005 NBA Draft. SportsCenter is next.